I welcome our Chairperson Professor Dr. Nagalaxmi M. Raman, Director and Head, Amity Institute of International Studies, AIIS, Amity University, Noida.
Very good afternoon to all the delegates and honored guests. I am Tania. I am from Bangladesh Civil Service General Education Cadre and currently working as a lecturer in Netrakona Government College under National University. I would like to thank IIHSG and Dr. Nandini Basista for giving me such opportunity for my presentation. I would like to highlight on the topic Protecting the Future, a comprehensive study on Rohingya child rights and well-being. And this critical issue of Rohingya child rights and well-being are focusing on the plight of Rohingya refugee children living in precarious conditions. The Rohingya, a Muslim minority group, have faced severe persecution in Myanmar, leading to their displacement and migration to Bangladesh. Bangladesh is currently hosting more than 1.2 million Rohingya, 60% being children labeled as stateless refugees, lacking legal identity. This contravenes the Convention on the Right of the Child, emphasizing prompt assistance and identity establishment. Article 8 of the CRC faces defiance, leaving children stranded and stateless. The Rohingya crisis has left a significant population, mainly children, in challenging conditions without legal identity, violating the Convention on the Rights of the Child, legal frameworks, including the Refugee Convention and CRC, and international human rights laws bind Bangladesh despite not being a party to the 1951 Refugee Convention. My research objectives are to assess the current situation, of Rohingya children and how to resolve it, to assess the current situation of Rohingya children and to protect the issues such as human trafficking, terrorism, child marriage, road safety, potential involvement in the narcotics trade, and analyze the future in this current context, and to explore the identity of statelessness and how to resolve it for the sake of Bangladesh. Convention on the Status of Refugees, 1951, stated a refugee is someone unable or unwilling to return to their country of origin owing to a well-founded fear of being persecuted for reasons of race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group, or political opinion. My topic critically discusses the role of major powers in South and Southeast Asia. Rohingya is an ethnic group in Myanmar. The eluding of the natives of Myanmar to other countries is one of the biggest humanitarian crises in the Asia. Having been an victim of atrocities perpetrated by the Myanmar regime, the Rohingya community absconded to many nearby countries in South and Southeast Asia. Their social and political culture is at risk due to the social, cultural, and economic exclusion in their native state. A large and considerable section of Rohingya took shelter in Bangladesh, but sheltering of this Rohingya is not an amicable solution to this man-made plight, because the Rohingya in Bangladesh is leading the worst life in the camps. They are escaping from there in search of leading the worst life in the camps, and the collective and benignant initiative of the major powers across the world is the only solution to the crisis. It is a press to support a community who are ill-treated and exiled on the ground of religion. Rohingya, the state-induced statelessness. What would be the fate of the Rohingyas, who are dispersed and took shelter to various countries? And what is the role of the international community? The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is considered as the largest pronouncement of human rights, has prohibited the arbitrary deprivation of nationality of individuals. On a large scale, Rohingya fled to Bangladesh in the 1970s and 1990s as well. In 1978, more than 20,000 Rohingyas ran away from Myanmar and took shelter in Bangladesh. Again, in 1991 and 1992, subject to the barbaric torture of the armies, almost 25,000 Rohingyas left the country for Bangladesh. But the recent exodus of 2017 was prodigious. The Arakan Rohingya Salvation Army, the ethno-national insurgent group, is active throughout in Rakhine. This group claimed to be a secular and is working for giving justice to the Rohingya community. In 2017, the ARSA has attacked the Burmese army in Rakhine state. And which is the response from this international community? The South and Southeast Asian countries find the Muslim Rohingyas as a burden. Rohingyas are displaced everywhere in the region. The Asian countries like Brunei, Indonesia, Thailand and Malaysia have protested the inhuman treatment against the Rohingyas. Though these states lent humanitarian assistance to the great crisis, they did not open their border for those asylum seekers. Being an Asian superpower, China also took a keen interest in that region. Thereby, it developed good strategic relations with Myanmar. China has even started buying gas from Myanmar in 2008. It has invested billions of dollars in the China-Myanmar gas pipeline project. Moreover, China is also planning to make the region a special economic zone because it has become an alternative route to Malacca Strait. The exploration and selling of gas can give long-term profit to Myanmar. Safe, voluntary and sustainable repatriation of Rohingyas is the only solution told by our Foreign Minister, Dr. A.K. Abdul Momen. And these Myanmar and Bangladesh have signed a bilateral agreement on the repatriation of Rohingya to Myanmar. But what do we say? And under this agreement, the recognition of Rohingya as a citizen of Myanmar is the prerequisite of Rohingya repatriation. Both Bangladesh and Myanmar, along with other countries of the region, should take an quick step to ensure the peaceful and secure repatriation of the Rohingyas. But for the time being, they should get human treatment in the camp. The shortfall in funding, with only 40% of the budget currently made to enhance humanitarian aid for Rohingyas in Bangladesh. The Rohingya child rights crisis demands immediate attention and collective efforts from governments. The resolution relies on the political will of superpowers, especially China, which can influence Myanmar and facilitate the refugees' safe return. The involvement and commitment of powerful nations are essential for addressing this ongoing crisis. Now, I am concluding the presentation emphasizing to better protect Rohingya children and keep alive their hopes for a better future. A concerted effort is needed to build a new foundation for the rights and opportunities of Rohingya children over the long term. I am throwing a question to this open forum. How do we prevent the Rohingya children from becoming a lost generation? Given the diverse perspectives in this open forum, spanning different countries and regions, it is imperative for the international community to exert pressure towards a sustainable solution. In an era marked by the complexities of international politics, such as the Israel-Palestine conflict, the Russia-Ukraine war, the global repercussions of the COVID-19 pandemic and economic recessions, coupled with the extensive collection of funds for various crises, donors are increasingly constrained. Consequently, efforts to address the plight of the Rohingya children risk reaching a deadlock. Urgent and concerted action is required to navigate through these challenges and safeguard the future of this vulnerable generation. Thanks to all.
Good afternoon to all the respectable people present here. Today I actually, along with my co-authors, Dr. Ishani Chopra and Ms. Tanujan, I have to present my paper on the role of higher education institutions in promoting sustainable development goals. Starting with the paper. The higher education institutions and the sustainable development goals are indeed play a critical role in promoting the sustainable developmental goals which are formed by the United Nations in the year 2015. The traditional pedagogies may, after long time, may fall short apart. Therefore, we are indeed may fall apart the increased demand for environmental education. This research examines how both public and private universities in India helping students develop a sustainable attitude. Coming to the objective of the study, the paper examined the role and evaluated the role of public and private universities in India in inculcating sustainable value systems among students by generating awareness about the sustainable developmental goals. Coming to the research methodology. So this research methodology was actually an interesting one, how it can be outlined in type of a story. Like we collected the data from the top 25 public or private universities according to the NII ranking 2020. A methodological approach based on quantitative analysis was used to analyze this data. The annual reports of the top 25 universities were subjected to an artificial intelligence-based process. Now, we actually used the help of AI in processing our data, which we collected from the websites of these top 25 universities. This process resulted in the categorization of the annual reports according to the Sustainable Developmental Goals. This report formed the basis of the study of our empirical research findings. In this study, the top 25 universities were taken into the consideration in which the annual reports were categorized into their respective developmental goals. It was found that the SDG 4, that is, the quality education, was mostly practiced and adopted among all the 25 universities. And the IIMA, that's the IIM Ahmedabad, topped the scoreboard with the scoreboard of 14 out of all the 25 universities. In addition, a number of additional SDGs showed notable levels of implementation throughout these campuses. Coming to the future roadmap of the study, and future endeavor can be taken on studying deeply the activities that these institutions adopted to contribute in achieving these SDGs. I would like to conclude with my presentation here with the limitation that the time period taken here can be updated to the present year. Thank you.
Okay, now I request our resource person.
Thank you, dignitaries, and again, sitting at the edge of the corner, I welcome you all. I'm Sujata from Hyderabad. It's my university, Department of Journalism and Mass Communication. I'm presenting on the topic because this is the first time I'm presenting on in this particular annual the IIHSG International Conference. Yeah. My topic is The study is on the security, identity, global governance and gender perspective in point of Indian cinema. We know what is Indian cinema, how it's striding and again how it's elevating in many ways in many structure all over the world. I would say it's a global economy, global media, cross media, everything is visible in Indian cinema. Because that can be made possible only with the great directors, producers related 1913 to present day right now, right? Yeah. So this is a study I've taken on, this is more enumerated in a proper way, taken from different journals as well as from different websites. Yeah. Yeah, I could say that cinema is the most glamorous entertainment vehicle of communication to the people. Also called as the tinsel world, silver screen, celluloid. It is typically called as Bollywood, Tollywood, Collywood, and the Mollywood in India, in different regions of regional language and film industry. The film involves mainly in making as a product, which includes director, producer, technical crew, location, right from the costume to the casting of roles. Here in this study, we will be discussing about the identity, security, global governance, gender perspective in the Indian cinema at large, circumventing the Indian film industry from its evolved period, that is 1913 to the present time. How women were given space and security related to gender equality, and how far women in cinema were treated and accepted at the global level, and also how the Indian film industry penetrated locally and turned out to be a big market at the overseas film economy, which was visible more like blitzkrieg at the success of RRR cinema. I think very particular about RRR cinema. They become world popular cinema. Talk about the Rajamouli's RRR, so which has scored an impressive enough Academy Awards. The brilliant director James Cameron has approached the successful director Rajamouli to connect with him to produce world standard cinema. I'm very thankful to see this. I want to read out this because the points I would appreciate because there is no time for us. I'll skip from from involvement and all. I'll just give the brief about the my topic. When you think about from Raja Harishchandra to the present films, many producers produced and experimented with assertiveness and confidence on audience concept-based cinema, disseminating films as per the taste and demand of the audience. Star system was introduced by selected film producers as various store owners were insisted on star casting who can create moolah for them. That began 100 crore club, now it's related to the 200 crore club, also been added in the star system, right? The silent era of movie making, soundless it expresses through drama and costumes, expressions, singing their own songs has turned an advantage for the film personalities. Films were not considered to be a respectable career, so the women not allowed to be part of film production. In fact, the male actors used to portray the film characters. Devi Garani, Kanchanamala, Durga Kote, Bhanumati Ramakrishna, Anjali Devi, etc. Because they're all the, they were from theatre, they were singers and turned as actors on celluloid, right? Now, when you think about the further, I want to proceed in this particular session. Yeah, when you think about men in cinema, women in films and also, women have made noticeable strides in Indian entertainment media in recent years. As evidenced by the success of films featuring women, Kangana Ranaut, Tanu Manu returns to the first female-led Bollywood film to earn over 100 crore. Anushka Sharma's NH10 and Deepika Padukone also did well at the Indian box office. So each and every film is depicted and again reached to the world over locally, nationally, internationally. Now, when it comes to the point of women present representation, when women are represented in Indian film, they are also hypersexualized. Indian women are 3 times more likely than men to portray with some nudity. They are also 3 times more likely to appear in revealing clothing than men. So reported cases of eating disorders have increased over 5 times since 1990 as Indian media has become more westernized, and previous research has linked this to unattainable standards of beauty put forth in entertainment media. Thank you, Madam. Dr. Laxmi, I'll proceed with my presentation further. Indian cinema made a national identity, gender behavior, and acceptability in the offshore because of the Indian diaspora. Nationalistic, ethnic, and cultural discourse aimed at the people living abroad. In our encouragement and contribution has also increased its volume of business of entertainment, spreading Indian culture and values through its films. The next, you can see the Bandini. I think Bimal Roy's Bandini is very popular, very, just accepted at that time and all, right? Our Falke Awardee, Dr. K. Balachandar, made a powerful women-centric films to boost and encourage women to be in forefront through his films like Antuleni Katha, a Telugu film, Rudraveda, Arangetram, Idi Katha Kadu, Gupeda Manasu, Kokila Mother, all in Telugu, and Tamil because K. Balachandar, a great Falke Awardee, produced Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Hindi also, he produced films related to the, because they're all related to women-centric films, and that way we can say is a great director who has won the Falke Award. Women find injustice and revolt against injustice, meted out to women representation in films on women-centered issues and social issues. They face in everyday life from economic hardships to violence, which was visibly presented by Bharat Ratna Satyajit Ray in Charulata, Adur Gopal Krishna's Swayamaram, Shyam Benegal's Mirch Masala, Nishan, Bhumika. Another Falke awardee that is based from Andhra, that is K. Vishwanath, also produced women and social issue based films like Saptapadi, Swayamkrishi, and Sankarabharana. Bimal Roy's Sujata, Bandhini, Ritik Ghatak's directorial Supriya Dev's in Mega Daka Tara, Rakhi in Parama, or Rituparna Ghosh portrayed by Konkana Sen Sharma in Dosa. Kaveri is one of the few women in Indian cinema to take an objective look at her damaged marriage and reassures herself to give a chance instead of divorce. And also in Ek Din Pratidin, Chinu, Mamata Shankar, Rehana Mariam Noor, gripping female experience shown on the screen, directed by Abdullah Muhammad Saad. The story deals with abuse and struggle. This is from Bangladesh, movie, very popular film, which is produced in 2021. The filmmakers should show women in a more positive and active role, which emphasize their presence and their contribution in the public sphere. The patriarchal relations power, the birth of a son, is Gharkachira, where girls were made to take care about household chores, sibling care, and also inheritance property is prioritized for men. Desh badal raha hai. In order to keep the public informed, media, a potential tool to create dialogue around gender roles and representation in stereotypes that bring together diverse sections, feminists, media producers, writers, and other stakeholders would generate new ideas that could shift gender representations in popular media. So much is written there. I want to skip because now at the point of now. Then think about the relations when you think about measures taken by the CBF, that is Central Board of Film Certification, central and state government and all. They're all taken care related to that because when you think about the film communication, film studies, because it has reached to horizon, global level, right? And it had to be controlled by CBSE. That's the reason when you find about when you think about the MOLA, when you think about the revenue generation, definitely this CBFC and Ministry of Information Broadcasting, they have to control in related to the media economy, overseas or maybe internal. That's the reason. Now, the CBFC, that is a Central Board of Film Certification, the relevant ministries, that is Women and Child Development, Human Resource Development, Information Broadcasting, at national state level, could also be involved in various initiatives. In terms of sponsoring gender-sensitive content to create greater awareness of gender, or giving award to such content, or in programs for media education. Other state-level bodies involved in media content creation, such as the NFDC, Doordarshan, and All India Radio, could also be involved in initiatives to introduce greater gender sensitivity in media programming. conclusion to say that security, identity, global governance, and the gender perspective in point of Indian cinema has made a sea change socially, culturally, politically, and economically. The middle class immigration and identification was more prevalent with the effect of liberalization. Indian cinema, women representation is also well acknowledged by the crossover media directors of Indian origin. NRA stories, Karwa Chauth, Diwali, and rituals were promulgated at encouraging level, and Indian cinema were found great fan following in China, Far East, Western countries. China's influence of entertainment media should be curtailed with the intervention of government and the CBFC, not to sweep away and govern on our media economy. So this is my presentation. Thank you for listening to me carefully, and I'm grateful for your patience. Thank you.
So, good afternoon, all the guests and audience present here. Myself, Monica Jha, and I am a PG student of Lalit Narayan Mithila University, Darbhanga, Bihar. So, I am here to present my topic, which is Balika, Mukhyamantri Balika Snatak Protsahan Yojana, an endeavor for educational security in higher education for girls in Darbhanga district of Bihar. So, I would like to start my presentation with this table, which is showing the gender gap in education, which is happening in Bihar from a very long period of time. As you can see, the male or female literacy rate is increasing, but the gender gap is still constant. So Bihar is a state which has been always criticized for its low literacy rate, but due to the continuous efforts of government, it started improving. But one problem which remained consistent was the problem of gender gap. So our females were still far behind the males in terms of education. And to reduce that, our government took lots of initiatives, and Kanya Uthan Yojana is one of them. So Kanya Uthan Yojana is an umbrella scheme which is introduced by our Honorable CM, Mr. Nitish Kumar, to encourage girls towards education. Under this scheme, there are 8 sub-schemes, and Mukhyamantri Balika Snatak Protsahan Yojana is one of them. So let me give you a brief about this Yojana. So Mukhyamantri Balika Snatak Protsahan Yojana provides a one-time scholarship of rupees 50,000 to all those girls who complete their UG courses from any recognized university of Bihar. So our Honorable CM, Mr. Nitish Kumar, came with this initiative with the objective to reduce gender disparities, to eliminate child marriages in the society, and to encourage girls, to encourage higher education among girls, and also to provide financial assistance to all those girls who is ambitious but not able to fulfill their dreams due to some financial constraints. So, for the purpose of my study, I have gone through some literature, and there I found that gender gap is really a big issue, and schemes like Kanya Uthan Yojana was much needed to shorten this gap. So for the purpose of my studies, I choose 3 objectives for it. First one is to look onto the impact of this scheme on the enrollment ratio, and to investigate its utilization pattern of the scholarship, and to explore the relationship between Mukhyamantri Balika Snatak Protsahan Yojana and education continuation of girls. So this research is based on a particular district, Darbhanga, which belongs to Bihar, and for this I choose a random sampling method, and I collected data from 4 colleges which comes under LNMU. I also took some samples randomly from nearby villages of Darbhanga, and now I am moving towards my findings. So, as my first objective was to find out the impact of this scheme on the enrollment ratio. So, as you can see, this data of MRN College, which is a women-specific college in Darbhanga. Here you can see after 2018, which was the initiation year of the scheme Mukhyamantri Balika Snatak Protsahan Yojana, you can see the enrollment of girls in higher education hiked so fastly. not only in Darbhanga but also all over in Bihar. You can see that after 2018, the enrollment hiked by 11 to 33%. So we can conclude that this scheme is really helping a lot and succeed in encouraging girls towards higher education. Now I am moving towards my next objective, which was to study the utilization pattern of the scholarship. And I took interviews of 80 girls, and after analyzing all the data, I got a very shocking result, which was that most of the girls, most of the beneficiaries were not using this scholarship amount for their educational purposes. Most of the girls was using this scholarship amount for their personal or household expenses. And according to me, according to my findings, which was not fulfilling the government's objective. Now I'm moving towards my next objective and next finding, which was the continuation of education after getting the scholarship amount, because government was providing the scholarship to girls just to go towards higher education. So I found that 40 to 45% girls, even after getting the scholarship, were not continuing their education, were not continuing their education to PG courses or some other master courses. So the problem was their early marriages and their family barriers. So according to my conclusion, I would like to conclude it in a way like most of the girls are getting this scholarship. It is helping them a lot in growing their career, and they are capable to fulfill their dreams. But due to some societal pressure, due to some family barriers and these early marriage issues, they are not able to choose their dreams over their responsibilities. And I think it's still a big issue happening in Bihar. So government is really taking big stage for this, but government should literally think about this, that the family and that emotional connection is stopping girls to go forward their dreams. At the end, I would really like to give some policy recommendation, which was attendance criteria should be should be there, as I found that most of the girls has enrolled in the UG or PG courses but not attending their classes regularly. So I think in this way they will get a degree, they will get a degree of UG or PG courses, but they will not get educated, they will not get knowledge. So according to my finding, the government should provide the scholarship amount, but they must check the attendance of that student, and the timely disbursement of the scholarship will also help all the students. And the scholarship scholarship after completing the PG courses will also help and encourage girls to move forwards to higher education. So thank you. This is my findings, and these are some references. Thank you.
It was really wonderful presentation. Can you just wait for a minute, Monica?
Yeah, sure.
You said that you 40 to 45% they were giving education, they were giving support, right? But still they were not able to complete it. But in your recommendation, you said that the attendance should be mandatory. Instead of that, would you mind giving any other aware?
Okay.
You got 4 plus 1 minute.
Sure. Very good afternoon to all of you. Masbena Chibai, which means in Azokubi language. Greetings to all of you. My name is John Timatsan Gwite. I'm a research associate with the India International Center working on foreign relations, and I'm a PhD candidate with the Jawaharlal University School of International Studies. Okay, so let me start. This is me. I was earlier an officer with the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, and also as a research consultant with the National Human Rights Commission. So my paper here today is about the sustainable development and its inextricable relationship with national security of India, right? We all know the Sustainable Development Goals, right? The 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So what are the Sustainable Development Goals? Developments that meets the need of the present generation without compromising the needs of the future generations, right? This is from the Brundtland Commission report in 1987. No poverty, no hunger, in order to lead mankind to prosperity, right? So, we all know who this is. Eleanor Roosevelt, right? This was the foundation. This was a historical moment when the UDHR was formed. UDHR, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, in 1948, in the General Assembly, right? So here we have my eyesight is a little weak, right? Okay. So we all know what human rights are, right? The right to be human, so that everyone's capacity can be realized to the optimum potential, right? So this is what the human rights definitions are. And then India is contributed to UDHR in 1948. And then we know that most of the provisions of the UDHR 1948 are incorporated in the Constitution of India under Part 4, which is under Article 36 to 51, right? And then we move forward to India being a signatory to the UDHR and its two covenant protocols, which is the International Covenant for Civil and Political Rights and the International Covenant for Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. And these human rights are the very foundation on how we can achieve sustainable development in the long run, right? Then we have the Sustainable Development Goals and its human rights. These are the major findings of my paper. This is more like a paper come, research paper come policy paper. So we know that this was so before the Sustainable Development Goals were laid down, there was first the Millennium Development Goals, right? Which was laid out in 2000. So then we move on to, after achieving some progress from the Millennium Development Goals, we moved on to the Sustainable Development Goals in 2015, right? This is to enhance the capacity, the prosperity of mankind, right? And then we have, these are the seven, we all know these are the set of 17 goals. So, in a study by Harvard University, the Department of Public Health in Harvard University, India is going to fall back by 50% because India might not achieve even 50% of its Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. So, which is really sad and depressing. Obviously, because India has a lot of population and a lot of systemic problems that it has, sociological, economic, etc. So, this person, Bertrand Ramcharan, he's a human rights expert, and he was special rapporteur on human rights. He's an Indian origin, but he's basically a Goanan, right? So Bertrand Ramcharan is one of the famous books, Human Rights and Human Security. This is a must-read book for all of you studying law, international relations, politics science, economics, etc. Even environmental sciences. So he basically said, upholding human rights is the way to achieve individual, national, and international security. So you get the picture? Human rights is a foundation of achieving national and international security. Because once you violate human rights, the individual capacity, the individual rights, and then the society, the nation, in the international community, their rights, their security is compromised. So he said that the foundation, the very foundation of human security is human rights. So this is one of his arguments in this book. It's a great book. So this is from the United Nations Office for Drugs and Crime, which are the realms of human security, right? So economic, health, political, environmental. So in order to achieve this complete panorama, right, this entire holistic sense of human security for every individual, for even for the international community, these are the ways in which we can achieve. These are the parameters in which human security is measured. Security of the individual, right? Economic, social, cultural, health, etc. So human security, security of the individual and of the state, right? First introduced in the UNDP report in 1994. New Dimensions of Human Security. This is a document, you can go online and see it. And then we have achieving Sustainable Development Goals to human rights, right? So in order to achieve these Sustainable Development Goals by even 2030, or even before that, we need to first recognize and respect human rights, which will automatically and naturally we can gain the respect of human security itself. So first human security, then human development, human rights, human development, human security, and national security. It goes up in a chain, right? So, international security challenges sustainable development. So this is the main part of my paper. Shyam Saran is a former foreign service officer. He was a former ambassador. I forgot but he was a former foreign secretary. So he said in his wonderful paper, India's Need for a Comprehensive National Security Strategy, presented in Center for Policy Research 2019, he said, India needs a comprehensive national security strategy because we don't have a comprehensive national security strategy. So I'll just read it out to you. One of his lines, he says, an NSS, which is National Security Strategy for India, needs to take a comprehensive approach encompassing domestic and external and economic and ecological challenges. highlighting the interlinkages and feedback loops among them, and on the basis formulate a coherent template for multidisciplinary and multi-sectoral interventions, right? So he says economic, ecological, domestic, external. Everything is interlinked. The internal is linked to the external, right? The social is interlinked with the economic. The economic is linked with politics. Each and everything is conjoined. So he said, national security strategy needs to be comprehensive, right? So this is his main outline of this paper. And he says India's national security problem stems from external and internal factors, which is somewhat related to economic and social and cultural. So it's all over there. So this is by Shyam Saran. And this was actually throughout history that we've realized in Indian history that even, for example, the Naxal movement, which started in 1967 under Kanu Sanyal and Charu Majumdar, even Mizo Ramboy, which happened from 1966 to 1985, 86 when the Mizo Accord was signed. It all happened because human security, it was challenged, right? On economic grounds, land, right? On social grounds, cultural rights. Because Mizos saw themselves culturally different, ethnically different. Even the Naxal issue is also because of land economics, right? So basically that violation of human rights in Sangat was challenged and was violated. And that's when people rebelled. There was rebellion, revolution. So when human dignity is attacked, human security is attacked, and that's when revolutions occur. That's when national security has to encompass, right? Naxal, Mizo, insurgency, etc. We've seen that, right? So, assurance of human security is the very foundation of national security. That has to be the apparatus within the Indian security establishments right now. So, this is basically what the hypothesis and propositions of my paper. So, relations between violations and rebellion. So this is by James Davis. This is one of his book called Theory of Revolution. If you see this part, this here, this is where revolutions occur, right? And this is where expected need of satisfaction, this is when people expect, but this is what they get, right? This entire thing, from expectation to actual realization, this is when revolutions occur, the frustration, right? So here he says, James C. Davis, political stability and instability are ultimately dependent on a state of unsatisfied minds, right? So you can just read it because my eyesight is a little weak. I didn't bring my glasses. Yeah, it's because of inadequate economic and social reasons, right? So this is where revolutions occur, violent revolutions, even the Arab Spring. To an extent, you can talk about Israel and Gaza for that matter. So this is when people are frustrated, when there is resentment in society out of economic and social and cultural health factors, and when the government does not realize this is when revolutions will occur. This is when internal security of a country will be compromised, right? So that's why human rights are the foundation. So this is from the United Nations. It's a blog, Fostering Peace and Sustainable Development by this author, Lauren. Yeah. So he says, it's all written there. He basically says, I'll just read it out to you. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development adopted by the UNGA on 2015 recognizes not only that peace and security prerequisites for achieving sustainable development, but that sustainable development provides the pathway to peaceful societies, right? So peace and security towards sustainable development, and from sustainable development to peace. So this is like an interlinkage, substantiating each other. First peace, security through human rights and human development, which will lead to sustainable development, and from sustainable development, which will enhance an individual and society's peace and security. So these are some of the books that I recommend.
Come to your recommendations.
Yes, these are the recommendations I did. Sustainable Development Goal and Human Rights. This is one of the books that I came across. It is absolutely recommended. And this book, Human Security by Agrasen, Chinoy and Touchbaksh. This is from one of our JNU professors. And this is my dissertation, my MPhil dissertation in JNU, which I submitted this year. So it's called Understanding the Linkages Between Human Security and National Security. So please go through this. This will be available in the JNU archives, offline or online. And these are the books that I truly recommend. I'll end this by Martin Luther King. It says, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Thank you.
Greetings to the chair and a very good afternoon to all the dignitaries present over here. I'm Dr. Laxmi from Dehradun, Himgiri University. First of all, I would like to congratulate IIHSG to organize such a wonderful conference over the very relevant and burning issues of the day.
My paper titled with The Polyphonic Treatment of Post-Coloniality in the Novel Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo. This paper is relating to the theme, not directly, but when I move for a bit further, you will see the relevance. Well, let me start with the introduction. So the term post-colonialism has a special significance to the people of Caribbean, India and Africa. However, to understand post-colonialism, it is necessary to know colonialism. So far as colonialism is concerned, it is widely known as a practice of domination and subjugation of the non-British and non-whites by the British and whites, as well as in the name of imperialism. With the end of imperialism, the term post-colonialism started gaining momentum. It is also well known that colonialism made people suffer in many ways, and literature, being the mirror of society, reflected the same in contemporary literature. Colonialism, however, came to an end but left behind the trauma in the lives of colonized people forever. The distress and personal angst caused by colonization of some nations were addressed by many titles, such as the racial discrimination, subjugation of the weak by the mighty, identity, cultural hegemony, cultural subjugation, ethnicity, and so on. Many writers across the globe contributed to recording these sufferings through their work. The major writers and critics to be named in this category are Nobel awardees like J.M. Coetzee and Nadine Gordimer, critics like Franz Fanon, Edward Said, Gayatri Chakrabarti Spivak, and other Booker awardees such as Michael Ondaatje and Bernardine Evaristo. My research paper targets one of the Booker awardee work, Girl, Women and Other by Bernardine Evaristo. The present paper therefore attempts to study the various aspects of present post-colonialism and its treatment in the celebrated book-winning work of Bernardine Evaristo's Girl, Women and Other. Evaristo, being a colonized woman and then a citizen, shared her experience, challenges and traumas faced by a black woman, by the black women, I must say, across the globe. The present paper also focuses on the issues of racial discrimination, ethnicity, gender discrimination, the concept of LGBTQ, and so on. However, most of the themes, Bernardine, my author, and elsewhere, are reflected or originated because of the post-colonialism. Well, since I do not have much time, so I'll just give you the brief. So the novel Girl, Woman, Other is a story of 12 black British women who have their African roots as well as their own stories of the struggle for identity and dignity, not only in a foreign land of whites but also in their land because of being colonized. The novel centers on Amma Bonsu and the premiere of her dignity, highly ambitious, rebellious play, The Last Amazon of Dahomey. Other than Amma, there are 11 other black British women, namely Yaz, Dominic, Carol, Pamela, Latisha, Shirley, and so on. Well, Evaristo, through her amazing and unique way of narration, crafts the story in a way that she learned as fusion fiction. I mean, in this novel, if I just read from the paper, it will be too long. I just want to bring some few points, like the very unique term or the noble term she uses here is a fusion fiction. And one more thing, she being rebellious, or she just challenges the rules set by the Britishers or the colonialists, right, by the imperialists. And the way she writes a novel is very, you can say, very rebellious. I mean, she ignores following the punctuations, the grammar, and all other things. I mean, she doesn't want to end her sentences with a full stop, and she doesn't even want to start a sentence with a capital letter. I mean, you might think that you might take it as a common phenomena, but she has got her own concept behind it, the whole history of subjugation and discrimination, which tells her, which focuses, which compels her to write her fiction in this way. And well, I'll read some more lines from here because they are very important. Evaristo, through her amazing and unique way of narration, crafts a story in a way that she learned as fusion fiction through the novel Girl, Woman, Other. Evaristo raises many burning issues which are still haunting the people of colonization in various forms, such as the pain of a diaspora in a foreign land, the struggle for one's culture, ethnic and national identity, the pain of being a low-class citizen, a black woman yearning for one's land, fight for the life of dignity for black women in a male-dominated society of whites, and the colonized suffering of being derooted, racial discrimination, struggle for the acceptance of being a queer and being an other in a society which they have seen the birth of their generations, and so on. Otherness is one more concept studied in post-colonial literature. The sense of otherness is so strong in the minds of both the whites and the blacks that the agony comes only on the part of non-whites. These stories of pain have been the central theme of many post-colonial writers, where a demand to work for the rights of blacks has been strongly generated. The post-colonial literature also demands that the intellectuals of the non-white society for the rights of black has been strongly generated. The post-colonial literature have demanded that intellectuals of non-white society raise the concern on a global level. Gayatri Chakrabarty's Spivak, in a remarkable essay, Can the Subaltern Speak?, writes, the intellectuals must attempt to disclose the discourse of society's other. Otherness as a post-colonial construct gets its treatment in Location of Culture from Homi Bhabha, where he affirms that the question of otherness is something need to be questioned, and also the mode of representation of otherness. Other major concerns of post-colonial literature are race, racism and racial discrimination, analyzing the defects of post-colonialism in the form of racism and racial discrimination. Fritz Fanon in his Black Skin, White Marks writes, other characteristics post-colonial literature include identity, power, intertextuality and othering. Edward Said in his work Orientalism mentions that the Orient is a semi-mythical construct imposed on a set of countries east of Europe. Racism and discrimination based on color have also been some of the popular themes of post-colonial literature, although the subjugation of the different races of human beings by another so-called self-declared superior race had its root during the beginning of civilization. However, the discussion on terms such as colonialism and post-colonialism gained momentum in the year 1970. Quoting website, the proponents of the theory examine how writers from colonized countries attempt to articulate and even celebrate their cultural identities and reclaim them from the colonizers. They also examine ways in which the literature of the colonial power is used to justify colonialism through the perpetuation of images of the colonized as inferior. Whites as colonizers use literature to justify the concept of colonization, justifying the colonial control of the Philippines and their land by the United States. Rudyard Kipling, the major British poet of the 19th century, wrote a poem named The White Man's Burden, 1899. The colonized have to undergo traumas now and then to be a non-white or a non-British or a non-European in a nation or a land of whites, which has been forcefully and tactfully looted from the non-whites using tools of literature, culture, civilization, and religion. Megan was part Ethiopian, part African American, part Malawian, and part English, which felt weird when you broke it down like that, because essentially she was just a complete human being. The concept of othering as a post-colonial construct has been discussed in the novel Girl, Woman, Other by Evaristo as a major phenomenon, which helps one to develop an understanding of the objective of the author behind writing the novel, and at the same time helps one to get the clear picture of the root cause of the suffering of the colonized by the colonizers. Girl, Woman, Other by Evaristo as post-colonial literature reflects how the colonizer deprived the black natives of their common rights as an individual and demeaned their existence based on their dark color, the so-called non-refined culture, their superimposed lack of mannerism, their non-English, non-European tongues, and so on. The colonizers using their oppressive tools, yes, ma'am, sure, in the guise of ideologies, and made the colonized believe that they had been burdened by making colonized suffer. Well, I'll conclude my paper with this. There's one quote, and you might have had some idea that what I mean through my paper, what I want to bring forth. I mean, this is the discrimination of still. I mean, the present discrimination. This is not I'm not talking about the discrimination which took place right after, during colonialism. I'm talking about the discrimination of the, the post-colonial mindset which we people carry, right? Every now and then, whenever we go and we are sitting either in an intellectual galaxy or walking somewhere. This post-colonial mindset we have to carry along it. And when you talk about Caribbean nations and you talk about a black, I mean, they have got their thoroughly different stories and which need a voice to be given. And I was surprised when I was working on this research paper that Bernardine Evaristo is the first black to be noticed, to be considered as a black, to be considered for the Booker. And there was a controversy as well, and she could not beg it alone, and she had to share her award with Margaret Atwood for her testament. Well, I would like to wind it up with this quote from Franz Fanon, which he has mentioned in his Black Skin, White Mask. He mentions a black is a black man. That is, as a result of a series of aberrations of effect, he is rooted at the core of a universe from which must be execrated. The problem is important. I project nothing short of the liberation of the man of color from himself. We shall go very slowly, for there are two camps, the white and the black. So stubbornly we shall investigate. Just wait. Yes, we shall investigate both metaphysics, and we shall find that they are other quite dull. We shall have no mercy for the former governors, the former missionaries to us. The man who adores the Negro is as sick as the man who abominates him. Conversely, the black man who wants to turn his race white is as miserable as he who preaches hatred for the whites. In the absolute, the black is no more to be loved than the kiss, and truly what it is to be done is to set man free. Thank you so much for having patience and listening to me. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, one and all present here. My name is Ahmed. I am a research scholar from Uttarakhand University, the Himalayan Garwal University. So, before starting, I just want to say something about my topic. Before just start my topic, I just introduce about my topic, the harmony between human and nature sustainable development goals in Indian context. So, the Sustainable Development Goals lay out a uniquely ambitious and comprehensive agenda for global development by 2023. And the Niti Aayog is a nodal institution for achieving SDGs, is the country leading and the 2030 agenda with the spirit of cooperative and competitive federalism. So SDG is also known as a global goals built on the success of Millennium Development Goals to go to the further to end all forms of poverty. So in this, the new goals and the unique that they call for action by the countries poor, rich and the middle income to promote prosperity while protecting the planet. So Sustainable Development Goals introduced India on 1st January 2016, and the SDGs are expected to stimulate developmental actions in area of critical importance and such as the ending poverty and hunger, providing healthy life and the quality education, achieving gender equality, providing modern energy, promoting sustainable economic growth, and reducing inequality of mankind with the nature. So there are the 17 type of SDGs goals. I just give few examples like no poverty, zero hunger, quality education, gender equality, decent work and economic growth, sustainable cities and communities, climate actions, life below water, peace, justice and strong institutions. So the SDGs build on decades of work by countries and the UN, including the UN Development of Economic and the Social Affairs. In June 1992, at the Earth Summit at the Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, more than 178 countries adopted Agenda 21, a comprehensive plan of actions to build a global partnership of sustainable development to improve human lives and protect the environment. So, member states anonymously adopted the Millennium Declarations at the Millennium Summit in 2000 at the UN headquarters in New York. So, on the perspective of SDGs goals, first of all, the one line was taken from Brahmanka Upanishads. So, may all be happy, may all be without sins, may all have well-being, may none fall on even days. So interest and investment in the sustainable development goals are growing, and investments in the goals make economic senses. So achieving the SDGs could open up $1 billion, trillion of market opportunities and create 380 million new jobs by 2030 agendas. So protect the planet and improve the life and perspectives of everyone in India. It came to the force on 1st of June 2016. And the SDGs are expected to stimulate developmental action in areas of critical importance such as the ending poverty and hunger, providing health, life and quality education. So assuming gender equality, providing modern energy, promoting sustained about a block-linked economic growth, reducing inequality. So there are various challenges to sustainable development and environment. So the first is the deforestation and groundwater depletions, alarming pollution levels, poor health. UNDP reports, I'm just explaining about this. The development is health sector and confined basically to the urban areas. So moreover, the status of income to largely determines the access to it, and life expectancy level no doubt have gone up. But it altogether important to note the higher rates to infant mortality. According to the UN report, the provisions of healthcare facilities is closely related to the economic growth and social. So well-being, better health of individuals embalms her to bring down the production loss, therefore the contributing to the higher levels of productivity. This has a direct influence of the resource and invite unnecessary expenditure, which can be diverted towards ensuring better living standard. So the community health center is responsible for including the rulers, and the healthcare facilities are often understaffed. Now, implementations of strategies, I just include this policies formulations is never a problem. Problems don't with implementations. So there are so many policies and plans for well in India. Their implementations is the real concern, and the concern is often expressed by the different states of the society required. So efficient machinery institutions, these institutions are the one which depend the delivery mechanisms and supportive framework of programs. So the functions, there are the few functions are given. The functions of the implementation institutions are varied. They span over a wider areas of governance, political, economic, social and civil. The priority is to ensure the fulfillment of basic rights to food, shelter, water, health and the sanitation. These are the basic needs of human. So there should also be continued effort towards the centralized from the governance rather than installing power in and implementing institutions. This includes an efficient means of governance. So at the state, district and village level, there should be monitoring of implementations of regenerations in these political bodies at the local level. So this should be made mandatory for the women and weaker segments of the society to participate in the local administration. After that, I just want to conclude. Harmony between human and nature means that human needs to adopt to the laws of nature, and in order to make progress in development, human society needs to preserve nature while developing, as same the action that do not respect the law of nature have produced undesirable coincidences. They have caused considerable threats to the long-term interest of existence. Some references also I have included. National Human Development Report, the Planning Commission of India 2001, Said Amrita 2001, Development as Freedom, Oxford University Press, New Delhi. Okay, so okay, thank you so much.
So this is a very long paper. The title of my paper is Child Labour in the Context of Child Security and Global Governance. Myself Sudhir Jana, retired professor, Political Science, Utkal University. So child rights and child labour, it got prominence through the institution Save the Children at the global level. In 1923, through the documents, Declaration of the Rights of the Children, and it was approved by UN also, where emphasis was given to end the suffering of children, giving them a very healthier, happier and safer environment, to nurture them physically, mentally, emotionally, So here we see two rights. One is the right of empowerment and right to protection. So these rights impose obligations on the members of the family, society, as well as state and international organizations to respect, to protect the children. So keeping in view these, discussions about, I have divided my paper into different segments. I will not deal with conceptualizing child labor because you all know it is a theoretical work. The nature of child labor I will not discuss. Factors responsible for the evil I will discuss. Movements and legislations in this regard I will touch very quickly. Role of global institutions I will speak on it, but I will put emphasis on my findings and solutions. So regarding this, how to protect the child labor and their rights. Various, attempts have been made by international labor organizations, so UNICEF and so many organizations. And here I will say one thing. These, I can say, working children or child laborers may be divided into different categories. One is migrant child labor, bonded child labor, working children of poor handicapped persons, and working children without parents. And this child labor is all pervasive, including United States of America. When they claim that Indian child children are preparing carpets, they are doing all these things, but they have also their 8 lakhs. They are supporting, agriculture and all these activities, including United Kingdom. And in South America, they are, used by the drug peddlers, and in Arab countries, they are joining with this camel race. So it is all pervasive. Anyway, so why this situation? So this situation is due to, I will say, number one, they are easily available. They are easily available. Children working in the organized sector, that we know, but those who are working in unorganized sector, that is not counted. And there is no alternative before the employer. That is another problem. And again, the punishment for them to the employer of the child labor is very, very light. And girl children, and particularly they are working in our organized sector more and more. So here I will come to some of the causes. Number one is poverty. It is not only economic, it is geographical, it is political. No one is for them to bargain. So it is cultural also. So social, and anyway, this is poverty. And then second one is gender bias. Gender bias, that means girl children are burdened with both wage work at the factory during the day and domestic work like feeding the cattle, assisting families, even also rearing the small child. That is the role of that is a girl child. So gender bias, very long paper I am discussing. Then education. Education is the most important factor for which we see more and more child labor, not only in India, everywhere. School and teachers may not be available. Further the school, lower the enrollment. I am telling you one thing. Here I will say, on 24th I was in district Noida, Jammu Kashmir. The particular place was Bhadruwa. That is next another campus of University of Jammu. So we went to one place, that is Guldanda, that is nearer to Himachal border, Achamba. It is only 40 kilometers. So we saw large number of people. They are coming with their sheep, coming down because snowfall started. So they are coming, and I saw with each family there are nearly 5 to 6 children, and they are riding on those sheep. Number of sheep was more than 500 to 1,000 in a particular group. So they are, they are supporting the family anyway. So they feel that, family members feel that entering into the education, it is a great burden, it is expensive. And in education there is no employment, that is in their mind. So now they will lose their employment. There is no money, it will be a burden for them. They will be unemployment, they will not support the family. So likewise so many things. So education is a great problem. Then traditional norms, I will not deal with all these things. Wage structure of the adults, if adults are not capable to manage the family, naturally there will be a problem. Then unemployed adults, here I will discuss about globalization. From Odisha, my state, I will give you the example, right example. In Paradip Port, lakhs of people, they lost their jobs due to mechanization of loading and unloading. Earlier it was done by the laborers, manual work. When the lakhs of people, they are unemployed, now what is the situation? Where they will go? So due to so many, globalization is a very dangerous, we can say, very beautiful term. If it is handled beautifully, it will give us beauty. If it is not handled properly, it will create problem. So I have seen the situation during this globalization period, since 1991 onwards. And here I will say, the problem is not only in India, in Nepal, Myanmar, Indonesia. You know, Indonesia, very precarious situation. Now they have made it free. Visa is free come to Indonesia. And what is the banner? I am ashamed of saying this. Sun, sea and sex. This is the banner of Indian tourism of Indonesia. So just imagine what is the situation. So my previous presenters, they presented the afternoon session, morning session presented on that trafficking, or sex trafficking, etc. So last point is, that is employers. Employers are very easy because these people are docile child rights, and they have no bargaining power because there is no trade union like other members. So anyway, so child labor will continue. We can't do with this, we can't abolish it because at the global level, at the national level, attempts are made. UNICEF is doing this, ILO is doing, so many things are done. Sustainable development, everything is done, but unfortunately, the problem lies somewhere else. Without solving the problem, we can't do it. So it is traditional norms, it is the family occupation, so many things are there. So I will say, I conclude with my suggestions that only community-based organization and education, if combined, they can do something, and state will guide them. So even if they will work, because you can't abolish it completely. So there must be appropriate nutrition, recreation, limited working hour, strictly followed by education. That is why they call non-formal or some sort of education should be given. And even I will say, Government of India started in the year 1989 100 national schools for those children, working children. They brought them from the workplace and they put in education, but unfortunately these are not working till date. So my suggestion is, NGO will work, not NGO, that is CBO, community-based organization, because NGOs are working as per the guidelines of their financer. As per the guidelines of their financer, so they are not the proper. So CBO will work. So they will work in 4 major areas: advocacy for the cause and participation of citizens in combating the problem, convergence of policies into practice, supported with regular evaluation, coordination between various stakeholders in the field, participation and involvement of community in fighting against working children's situation. So at last, I have given a very beautiful triangle. It is a vicious triangle. High fertility leads to poverty, poverty leads to child labor. The long points are there. So thank you.
Professor Sudhira, I have seen that you have done a very extensive study. Have you also done some case studies on this?
Good afternoon, everyone. So, myself Shifa Moideen from St. Joseph's University. I'll be presenting a paper on 17 Sustainable Development Goals by the United Nations and India's approach towards it. So we all know the 17 Sustainable Development Goals by the United Nations, which was adopted on the 1st January 2016. Sustainable development is basically just development that can fulfill the requirements of the present generation without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their requirements. The term sustainable development was adopted from the Brundtland Report, also known as Our Common Future, which was published by the World Commission on Environment and Development in the year 1987. After the 17 Sustainable Development Goals agenda came into force on 1st January 2016, the upcoming years saw universal application of these agendas and mobilization of efforts to end all forms of poverty, counter inequalities, tackling climate change while having an all-inclusive nature. The SDGs were brought up after the success of the Millennium Development Goals and also aims to further end all forms of discrimination and poverty in the world. While these goals are not legally binding, respective governments are anticipated to take possession and construct a national level framework. And my paper is mainly focusing on India's approach and their national level framework towards the SDGs. India critically took forward the ideals and the proceedings of the SDGs. The Planning Commission of India was dissolved and on 1st September they came towards with the idea of Niti Aayog, which was set up for active involvement of states to execute these strategies and plans for national development. The 17 SDGs under the 2030 agenda fall under the Niti Aayog, which is responsible for its execution. Some of the main points of the 17 SDGs by the United Nations are no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, also gender equality. All these points are very important for our country as those are some of the main issues that the people are facing in this country. Now let's look into the India's initiatives towards the SDGs. So something positive that India did towards this is that they have been working towards the SDGs even before the goals were adapted with the help of many national schemes like National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, which worked for no poverty to provide job opportunities in rural households, zero hunger, which was looked forward by the National Food Security Act, Ayushman Bharat, which was focusing on universal health coverage and access to quality healthcare services. Also, Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, Clean India Campaign, Make in India Campaign, Digital India, Smart Cities, etc. All are India's national framework towards the 17 SDGs. Now let's look at the outcomes of these SDGs. There have been several setbacks and criticisms related to the implementation of the SDGs in the country. India's progress is also very sluggish considering the fact that India might not be achieving more than 50% of the deadline, 50% by the deadline given by the United Nations. Some of the shortcomings can be the lack of localization. The national, state, or the municipal government planning procedures have not effectively incorporated the SDGs, leading to their poor functioning. Also, decentralization of the authority, as required by the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Acts. The decentralization of money, functions and functionaries to local government have not yet been fully implemented. Also, insufficient financial resources, which are limited efforts have been made to mobilize more domestic resources, and the share of union budget expenditure has decreased in recent years. Some of the other few problems can be the delayed fund flow and weak execution capacity. The fund transfers have been delayed as a result of institutional flaws and capacity limitations, which have limited the ability of the local level to effectively implement the plans. Effective planning and execution have been further downgraded by low personnel levels and high vacancy rates in line departments, gram panchayats and other local government bodies and organizations. Also, the one problem can be weak monitoring of data, the lack of preparation in building indicators and databases for monitoring SDGs at the state and district level, along with some smaller block levels, have resulted in a very poor reporting of data. Inconsistency can be seen in the data reporting results, and local data preparation resources are not up to the mark. Inadequate attention to disadvantaged sections or communities. The scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and other backward classes and other minority groups have not received appropriate attention in the monitoring and tracking frameworks created by the central government. At the same time, most importantly, let's also look into the positive outcomes of these plans. Over the last several years, the nation has led several SDG projects, displaying a very strong commitment to these goals. Some of them would be, they took up a localization model. India has created its own model of SDG localization with the goals of improving social protection, advancing green economy and utilizing digital disruption and innovation for speed and scale. Coordination by the Niti Aayog.
The Niti Aayog was set up for coordinating SDGs across India. Being the think tank for the Indian government, it organizes initiatives pertaining to the SDGs and their objectives into maps, identifies lead and supporting ministries for each objective, and makes it easier to incorporate the SDGs into national policies and initiatives. They also took up an inclusive approach. In India, the university maxim, leave no one behind, serves as the basis for the SDGs implementation. The goal is to guarantee that everyone, especially the most marginalized and disadvantaged, is included in the development in all of its proceedings. But at the same time, as I told before, it is not actually working the way they wanted it to work. Also, the cross-sector partnerships. Partnerships and cross-sector cooperation are essential for the SDGs' successful implementation in India. The SDGs are being accomplished via some collaborations between government, corporate sector, academia, and civil society groups. This cooperative strategy guarantees the sharing of resources, information, and skills for sustainable development. So I conclude by saying that India is a country filled with a lot of diversity, and there are many types of people living in this country speaking different languages from different backgrounds and everything. And at the same time, the population growth is huge, considering the fact that India even passed China in a few years back. So, in an article by The Hindu, it is clearly mentioned that India has been trailing behind in achieving all the goals on time due to the various challenges the country has to face in between everything. This can also be a reason behind us this cannot be a reason behind us not appreciating India's efforts towards achieving them as soon as possible, because some of the biggest challenges India faces are poverty, child marriage, domestic violence, anemia, access to basic services, and also the increase in tobacco consumption all over the country. According to the sources I have, even though states like Kerala and Himachal Pradesh are doing a great job in implementing all schemes and making it work, states like Assam, Bihar and Uttar Pradesh are not really able to achieve them in a favorable manner. India still has a lot to do in order to make sure that all the hindrances towards getting the best results are being solved. Thank you.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Shauna from St. Joseph, Bangalore. So today my topic is about the child security in the contemporary world, analyzing the role of global government institutions. Starting with the first portion, which is the importance of child security. So basically, it's the child protection and preventing harm to vulnerable children in a crucial concern throughout the world. Children are vulnerable to violence in every nation, culture, and socio-economic level, including the will of depriving physical and emotional abuse, at the same time sexual and exploitations. This needs to be a plan for protecting children that takes into an account both immediate threats and potential long-term ones. Children are made to live unfavorable parts of the society, such as war zones, buildings that were once intended to be educational but have been turned into disaster zones. Going on to the second part, which is the historical background on the child security. So, children weren't given any special protection in the ancient times. The Industrial Revolution in the 18th and 19th century led to the significant increase in child labor, with many children working in dangerous and exploitative conditions. Secondly, the concept of providing children with extra protection emerged in France in the middle of 19th century, allowing minor rights to expand through time. Beginning in the early 20th century, measures for the protection of children, including safeguards in the medical, social and judicial spheres, but were not put in place. This began in France and then extends throughout the rest of the Europe. As we all know, the child marriage system in India has a long historical presence and has a prevalent across the regions of India, especially in rural areas, and was not often considered as a social norm. and its impacts of the children in the sectors of health and education for both the girls who are going through this. We can consider the example of Satya as well, where the women are being mistreated after the husband are being dead and all that. And now the third is the conditions of child security in the contemporary world. So if we now look at the current state of the world, we can clearly see that it is going through an unstable period. Although the big scale wars are less, we still have many regional, internal, ethnic conflicts. In terms of India, the ongoing Manipur conflict has been the security of children in danger, where the families in Manipur have been forced to flee their homes and become separated from their families. Children have relocated families frequently struggle to get access to basic essentials including education, healthcare and home. Going on to the education system and the healthcare, which is being like the affected portion of the child security and the violence at the same time. For the military or other reasons, school may remain closed, which makes it challenging for the kids to go to a regular basis. The future opportunities may be disrupted by the lack of access to proper education. And now the addressing of the child marriage, which is prevalent throughout India still now. According to the National Crime Records Bureau reports that there is a significant increase in the number of cases reported by the Provision of Child Marriage Act between the year of 2017 to 2021, which was like from 395 to 1050 cases. And now my co-author will continue. Thank you.
Hello everybody, I'm Shreya Jagdishan. I will continue with the rest of the part. I'll begin with child security in war zones and grey zones. First is the war zones. War is supposed to be between two different governments, two different entities. Children have nothing to do with the war, but they nevertheless have to deal with the effects and risk losing their lives, both physically and mentally. If we look at the current scenarios of the Israel-Palestine crisis, more than 4,500 Palestinian children have lost their lives. I'm pretty sure that children who lost their lives had nothing to do with the war. They did not instigate the war or participate in the war. So how is this justifiable? In many situations, rape is used as a weapon of war, and primary targets are women and children. In addition to breaching the international humanitarian law, these attacks rob children of their fundamental rights. Going to the impact of poverty on child security. Poverty increases the vulnerability to violence. Poverty can have profound and long-lasting effects on children. Illegal trading of children is also a form of child labor. Basically, it's child trafficking, which covers broad section. It can lead from begging to sexual exploitation by involving them in prostitution. The third point is violence faced by children in grey zones. I would like to bring up two cases. First, the Chodal zone case, in which an 8-year-old was abducted, raped by a 68-year-old man, leaving 80% of her lower organs defective. But just 12 years of prison was his punishment. The second case, in 2018, an unfortunate case occurred. The Kathua rape case, when an 8-year-old Muslim girl was kidnapped, raped and murdered in a temple in the Rajna village in Jammu and Kashmir. The main accused was once the priest of the temple where the incident had taken place. Many reports suggest that she still hasn't gotten justice. Coming to the role of global governing institutions, organizations like UNICEF have worked to maintain and reopen schools despite the fighting in Afghanistan, enabling kids to complete their education in a secure settings. In terms of child labor, the legislation enforces strict laws against child labor and prosecute those who employ children illegally. The ECPAT, ECPAT International is a children's rights organization focusing exclusively on ending sexual exploitation of children. The sole goal of the children's rights group is to stop sexual exploitation of children, sex tourism, child trafficking, exploitation for state and human rights reporting. I'm concluding my report. In conclusion, protecting the most defenseless member of a society is a constant goal of children's security. It necessitates a complex strategy that incorporates community involvement, prevention, education and technology. Together we can build a world where every kid may develop and flourish in a secure, caring and risk-free environment. Nothing is less acceptable for children, the future of the world, and it is our responsibility to make this vision a reality. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead. We've got 5 minutes. Esteemed members of the panel and my fellow research scholars, a very good afternoon to all of you. I am Priyanka, research scholar at City University, Ludhiana. Under the guidance of Dr. Nancy, and the topic of my research paper today is Appropriation of Women in the Indian Cinema, a feministic reading of Shashi Tharoor's Show Business. Now, cinema, as we all know, is a mirror to society. It's a form of visual art that has portrayed the changing scenarios over the decades. In a similar context, Indian cinema has always been a significant point of reference. As Shashi Tharoor himself mentions, Indian film is the idealized representation of Indian attitude. However, it is sad that Indian cinema has somewhat failed to represent women adequately on and off screen. English art critic and novelist John Berger, in his essay on Ways of Seeing, captured the essence of male gaze. He said, "Men act, women appear. Men watch, and women watch themselves being watched." Thus, it can be said that female characters in the cinema are reduced to mere eye candies or are portrayed as oppressed characters, which further leads to their appropriation. So what does the term appropriation mean? Well, it comes from the Latin term appropriarus, which means to own. Now, according to Oxford Dictionary, the term appropriation refers to the act of taking possession of something, often without their permission or consent. According to Tyson, appropriation is reduction of women to the state of material objects. Coming to Paulette Guillermin's concept of appropriation, so it can be divided into 4 parts. Number 1 is appropriation of time, which according to the marital contract does not specify when women have to work and when they can just go at home and relax. It doesn't give them the liberty to have a day off. Next is appropriation of the products of body. Now this refers to how women do not have any right on their own autonomy. Even the children that are produced by women are considered a man's property. Number 3, sexual obligation. Now this occurs both in prostitution as well as in marriage. The only difference is that in case of prostitution, women are paid for their services, but in case of marriage, they are actually male's servant, which is why they are sexually obligated and are physically appropriated by their husbands. And finally, the physical charge of the disabled members of the group, which particularly are the male members. In this case, since the physical charge is bestowed upon the women actually because it falls outside the wage system and it destroys basically the individuality and autonomy of a person, that is why it is thought that women are supposed to do all of that work. Now coming to the novel which I have selected in this perspective, it's Show Business by Shashi Tharoor, which was written and published in 1992. It's a story of rise, fall and apotheosis of Bollywood superstar Ashok Banjara. It's a series of flashbacks which reveals the tales of multiple betrayals as we follow the journey of the protagonist. And although the novel does not seem as a feministic novel outwardly, but some threads of appropriation are evident, which I have cited in the slides coming up. So, in this context, I've taken up 3 characters of the novel. Number 1, Abha, number 2, Mehnaz Ilahi, and number 3, Maya. So, coming to the appropriation of Abha, it is quite evident as both Ashok Banjara and director, while they're having the conversation, they're confident that Abha's breasts are the best bet to attract the crowd in the movie. This reflects how actresses' bodies are appropriated in the Indian film industry, and their identity is merely reduced to a seductive object or a crowd puller that attracts audiences, which primarily comprises of men. And And it is not just their body's appropriation, it is also about the appropriation of their time, which is evident from next example, where although Abhay is extremely exhausted, she has to go through multiple retakes only because the protagonist of the novel, which is Ashok Banjara, who is also a superstar, is a non-dancer, and he has to and she has to comply with all his demands. Next, we come to sexual obligation of Abha and Mehnaz Ilahi. So now we. I'm so sorry. Alright, so Abha and Mehnaz Ilahi's sexual obligations. So now, as we all know, that women primarily suffer from gender and secondarily for their association. So in this case, Abha and Mehnaz Ilahi's contexts are pretty evident. Both of them are celebrated actresses, but still they have to comply to the sexual urges of the protagonist, as both of them belong to a classified group of women, and they are objectified because of the same cause. Coming to appropriation of Maya. Now Maya is Ashok Banjara's wife, and this has been in a total different context. It is the appropriation in a domestic sphere. So now it is Maya who announces that she wants to quit her acting career, but it is not Maya who is actually going out and speaking about that. It is Ashok who decides on her behalf, as he says that no wife of mine is going to be pawed, chased and hugged in public, not even by me. Maya's appropriation is also evident as in the domestic sphere, and based on the appropriation of her body products, as Ashok gives all the responsibility of the children on her as he goes out and flaunts extramarital affairs. And in conclusion, I would like to say that after studying the three characters, Abha, Mehnaz and Maya, it is pretty evident that these three female characters are being appropriated by the protagonist, which is Ashok Banjara, and thus this study actually confirms female appropriation. Thank you.
My presentation is titled Power Shifts, Transnational Feminist Networks for Gender and Climate Justice. So let us understand what are transnational feminist networks. The entire social constructivism aspect of international relations deconstructs the notion of power and the norms that are constructed across the globe. And we can understand that when transnational feminist networks are operationalized, there are particular impacts that Valentine Mogadam observes that TFNs that participate across UN meetings in say COP28 for now, these are collective resistance mobilizations across international non-governmental organizations, and we mobilize for prioritized causes which are different intersectional feminist causes. So Western feminists would be differentiated from, say, Dalit feminists, and also South Asian feminists would be differentiated from African feminists. So there is a lot of heterogeneity within the transnational feminist networking. Now, the exclusionary comprehension of TFNs, that is transnational feminist networks, Mogadam only restricts the entire definition and the contour of TFNs to women and does not include the queer population. So the focus is only on women-only movements and interconnections across the globe. In terms, so what do transnational feminist networks do? They create new knowledge, new capacity building for feminists across borders. Chaminda Veeravardhana, she seeks to not only decolonize the comprehension of transnationalism, because the entire impact of transnational feminist networks is to decenter and decolonize epistemes, that is to decolonize knowledge production. So the significance and scope of my research, Keck and Sicking in the 1990s, they are social constructivists in international relations discipline. They talk about transnational advocacy networks and why they are important in agenda setting and power shifts. Because you are completely changing the agenda if you are prioritizing particular feminist agenda and policy goals. So the aim is to change processes and policies and behaviors across the board for state and non-state actors, both globally and at domestic level. TFNs are enmeshed in narrative building, so the entire narration that gender and climate justice both are intersecting, which was recently accepted in G20 declaration as well, that women and gender minorities are disproportionately impacted by climate injustices and climate change. That is why it is super crucial to look at how transnational feminist networks are intersecting with climate injustice and how transnational feminist networks can in fact enable climate justice. Therefore, in global diplomacy and foreign policies of different nation states, we also need to prioritize ethnicities and castes, which often go obscure in the narratives of foreign policies, right? That is something that is completely marginalized and silenced. So we need to look at the different intersubjectivities and relationalities to margins and peripheries. So that something like caste becomes a point of India's foreign policy, for example, or of any South Asian foreign policy narrative for that matter. So this is where TFNs become crucial for gender climate justice, and we can go beyond the state-centric nature of diplomacy in climate diplomacy. So the research gaps is that in global diplomacies, foreign policies are mainly focused on nation states, and they're not focusing on advocacy networks, which are super crucial to in fact prioritize the margins. And that is where TFNs for gender climate justice can make state-centric diplomacy more solid from within and amplify intersectional marginalizations across global environmental governance. And that is how even summits like COP28 and further COPs can be enriched if we actually centralize and set the agenda around advocacy networks as well. Now the research questions that I looked at, can the carbon footprint of digital usage, crypto, big data servers and data mining, does that interlink with climate justice? Because when we are looking at transnational feminist networks, with the advancement of technology, we don't only have in-person TFNs, we also have TFNs operating in the cyberspace. So particularly after COVID era, we do have these Zoom meetings and webinar series and workshops and capacity building related to gender and climate justice. So we have these different youth-led networks that have come up. So when you are using internet as a space, are you emitting carbon footprint but at the same time advocating for gender and climate justice? So that's a contradiction. And the second question would be how do intersectional issues embed in the intersectional themes of gender justice and climate justice, because TFNs are operating in the digital world, and we know that there is a huge digital divide, and digital divide is also gender. We see that young women and girls have lesser access to the internet and even to electronic devices. So how can you be gender just when you are talking about operationalizing such advocacy networks across the internet space, but most women don't have access to the internet? Yeah. So let's talk about climate justice and digital divide. So if you are advocating for climate justice and you are a climate activist, what are the challenges that you're going to face? First one would be the great digital divide, and it's only a privilege that you have access to digital spaces, right? So TFNs need to go beyond women-led movement building, because we need to include queer population as well, because they are gender minorities. So in the largest scholarship I have read, Valentine Morgan particularly, they are just focusing on women-led movement building in climate and gender justice, which I think is a research gap. And what tends to happen in transnational advocacy networks is that they become these isolated, siloed enclaves where we are basically discussing a lot of theory, but there is no bridging of the theory and praxis gap. So transnational feminist networks need to bring on board researchers, practitioners, and everybody on board so we can bridge the theory and praxis gap in climate justice and gender justice. And we go beyond the siloed approach. The advent of information and communication technologies has removed impediments for many women, particularly in the global north and global south, but there are still deprivations I've already pointed out. So the gender digital divide is there in the low and middle income countries as a result of a gender and climate justice movement building is stronger in global north, but in global south it is there, but it is not highlighted or publicized. Now the complexity we have seen, like there are women organizations like the Women Environment Development Organizations that have been operating since 1980s, advocating for gender and climate justice nexus. But those are on-ground movements and very much Western-centric. When we are talking about decolonized knowledge building, about the local knowledge about climate change, we have to inculcate women-centric knowledge that indigenous women have regarding climate change. And we can only do that if we have grassroots-based transnational feminist networks. And so IPCC 6th report says that indigenous knowledge is crucial to adapting to climate change. And for doing that, we need transnational feminist networks across borders where we center the knowledge of the Global South women. And Global South women, again, as I have said, are not homogeneous. We have different ethnicities and different castes. And that is why we need to center Dalit feminism and ethnic feminism as well. Now, the trans feminism by people of color and the racialities that can be explored in transnational feminist networks can center the entire climate narrative around different kinds of oppression that get marginalized, right? So you have to walk longer distances because there are more droughts, there is lack of rain. So climate change has bigger impediments and challenges for women of the household. Therefore, low middle income countries can leverage such TFMs both on ground as well as in the cyberspace for a climate just and resilient development. So such transnational feminist networks, TFNs, advocate for gender climate justice, and we can positively set the climate narratives instead of all doom and gloom. It is more constructive to find solutions, and transnational feminist networks provide that solution, a non-state centric solution, which can actually enrich foreign policies, which are mostly state centric. And that's how not only Indian foreign policy, but foreign policy of different countries can be enriched regarding climate change and climate justice. So in conclusion, I would say that climate diplomacy gets enriched by state-centric feminist foreign policies, but such feminist foreign policy objectives can draw from non-state transnational feminist networks that can further embed gender climate narrative into the foreign policies and actually make that mainstream. Thank you.
Security, assessing the implications of the European Green Deal. So I would like to proceed further with the introduction first. The increasing global energy demands, environmental and climate change concerns, and adverse effects of the excessive fossil fuel consumption have led states to managing their energy resources to balance the consumption and production to establish an efficient energy system. These increasing energy demand have led the strain in the energy markets, leading to geopolitical tensions and the international competitiveness among the major powers in the world. So, therefore, the transition to renewable energy, particularly the solar and the wind, can be considered as a drivers to this transition or to these escalating geopolitical tensions. So, in this context, the European Union has adopted a policy known as the European Green Deal in the year 2019. It is a mixture of climate and energy policy. In this presentation, I will be focusing more on the energy security and the energy policies. Through this European Green Deal, the European Union aims to achieve the 55 reduction of the carbon by the year 2030 in the level of 1990s, and to become a complete carbon neutral continent, and to become the first continent in the world to achieve a 2050 climate neutral goal. It has certain goals and objectives that it is a comprehensive and strategic environmental strategy of the EU to transform it into a fair and prosperous society with modern, resource-efficient and competitive economy with no net emissions of greenhouse gases, and the economic development decouplement from the resource uses. Therefore, also this EZD aims to advance the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals, particularly focusing on renewables and energy efficiency, because it considers that for secure, affordable and clean energy, the decarbonizing the energy sector should be considered as a prime concern. So therefore, in this background, the study focuses on the energy security of the European Union through the implications of the European Green Deal by focusing on energy security and its geopolitical implications. So this is a pictorial representation of the European Green Deal. I will not discuss this in detail. So I'm not going to talk about how the energy geopolitics have evolved over a period. I'll just briefly mention about what are the various energy security challenges that the European Union is facing. Talking about the history, the Arab oil embargo of 1973 have sparked the European Union's worry about security and its energy, owing to because of its energy supply and owing to high prices and restricted in energy supply. Also,
the European Union energy security is complicated by concerns with regard to energy production, capacity reserves, and environmental safety, as fossil fuel constitutes the 3/4 of the European Union energy system. It is almost constituting the 75% of the greenhouse gas emissions. Also, the other security challenges that the European Union is facing was that of Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2006-2009, as well as recent invasion in 2022, which have turmoiled the global energy market, in particular the European countries. So, in this slide, I will talk about how the European Union is responding to these energy security challenges through the European Green Deal. I will be using the nomenclature EZD for the European Green Deal. Under the EZD, the European Union has adopted the Repower EU plan in the year 2022 to minimize its reliance on the Russian fossil fuel and the energy supply. Also, through the Repower EU plan, the EU aimed to increase tenfold high biomethane production by the year 2030. Also, the Repower EU plan under the EZD aims to geographical diversification of energy supply by particularly investment in the purchase of LNG, that is liquefied natural gases. Also, the European Union has signed various international agreements for the sake of its energy diversification with the countries and signed various MOUs and the trilateral agreements with Northern African and the Middle East countries. And also it has reviewed its energy and climate policy under the policy known as Energy Accession Directive under the EZD. And also it has developed various alternative pipelines known as Trans-Adriatic Pipeline, Trans-Anatolian Gas Pipeline, Nabucco Pipeline, and the South Stream Pipeline, also known as the Trans-Saharan Gas Pipeline, for the supply of clean energy from the various sources. So, in this slide, I will talk about what are the geopolitical implications of the European Green Deal on its global energy partners. The EZD has both positive and a negative implication among the energy supplying countries. Talking about the negative impact, the implication it will impact first on the global partners, particularly like Russia and Algeria. Talking about the Russia, as we all know that energy goods of Russia almost accounted 60% of the European Union import. And concerning the Algeria, after the European Union transition into renewable energy, the renewable market, it will harm the Algeria's frontier system. But how? Because Algeria is heavily dependent on the European market for the supply of its natural gas. Okay, I'm focusing on the time, so. Okay, then this is the last slide. This is the last one. Regarding the global trade partners, the European Green Deal's implementation of, or the European Union implementation of the CBAM, that is Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, or it is a carbon tax. After this implementation, it might have negative consequences for its trading partners because CBAM may hinder the export from global south or the developing economies and cause the tariff wars. Also, these are some of the positive aspects of the geopolitical implication of the EZD. It might help the countries which are rich in the green technologies and the clean energy, particularly China, which are the production hub for the critical raw materials. Also, it might help the southern neighborhood countries like Morocco and Tunisia because these two countries have a potential in green energy like wind and solar. Also, regarding southern Mediterranean countries like Israel in particular, if you see Israel, it has expertise in sustainable agriculture technologies and clean energy concept, and Israel can use the EZD as an opportunity to leverage its research and innovation capacity. Now I'll directly conclude by providing some of the recommendation. EZD might be, the European Green Deal can be path-breaking path for the European Union if it considers the potential of the fossil fuel-rich countries potential in rare earth materials, because rare earth materials would be beneficial for producing the renewable energy sources. Also, the European Union can rethink its trade relation with Russia, because Russia has the potential to produce great technologies and can do its trade on a more sustainable and environmental friendly manner. And lastly, I would like to conclude by providing last recommendation, that is European Union can rethink about the implementation of its CBAM, that is Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. It is a carbon tax, because its implementation might require international cooperation. And thank you so much for listening.
Very good, because this is a very upcoming, most contemporary topic, and you were talking about the alternative pipeline. That was really excellent. Keep up your work.
Thank you.
I am Isa Mohammed, a research scholar and a faculty at Amity University, Noida. Greetings to the bench present over here.
Which department?
I'm AIIS. So I'll just start with my presentation. My area of research has been smart city. I'll try to focus on the emphasis on the problem of smart cities, like how did we come up with the smart cities. Largely as a city dweller, I have been putting up in Delhi. I'm a Delhiite since long, and I have witnessed a lot of problems in Delhi. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate with it, those who have come from different cities throughout India, and the urbanization in India has been increasing. So many problems which are rather created by humans, and humans are the only one who can solve it. This approach in my study is called as technocentric approach. That is what I have found till now. And using the technocentric approach, we have found the concept of smart cities, although the concept of smart cities has been very old. I'm sorry, I'm not moving the slides. Yeah, so we have the urbanization trend in India, which has boosted a lot within almost a half century. We see 1951 to 2011 and 2050. The prediction is we have moved from within a decade of 2001 to 2012. We see a population migration from rural areas to urban areas of 290 million to 377 million now. So we already see a huge problem created. Just a rhetoric question I really wanted to ask everyone over here, that how many of we feel that when we travel in the city, a lot of time and cost goes in traveling, a lot of time and cost. So is that the same thing which has been felt by everyone? And the same thing is very similar to what my study has found. This is in my land use policy. And so the infrastructure development, I have included the study of three areas. So one is the Kochi Smart City project of India. The other is Naya Raipur city of India. And third one is Masdar city, which is made in Abu Dhabi. Three cities comparison I have made. One example I'll just quickly wind up, because it will take very long if I go in detail, and we are short of time, and I'm sure all of us are very tired since long. So if we talk about the Kerala Kochi Smart City, the project has been such that is the metro rail project is ironically very different. They have used the land use policy in an alternative way. So the land burden which we see, we have developed a lot of flyovers in Delhi, since we are short of land always. But this land burden over there, they are also short of land. They have shifted it to the waterways. So they have inbound waterways over there, and these inbound waterways are connecting from city to city. So from Cochin to Trivandrum and other places in that. And they have already launched, and it's a very revolutionary project they have launched. It's done by the development authority over there in collaboration with Dubai. They have imported around 97 of cruise ships, which are very similar to the Delhi Metro, and inside you sit inside that, it will be very similar to Delhi Metro. So they have shifted the burden of the land on the waterways, which is one aspect of the smart city already completed. Another aspect is the Naya Raipur the observation of traffic, how they have managed the traffic over there. Now, Naya Raipur is something which is, completely managed by CCTVs. Now, a lot of, almost all political parties and politicians have promised to deliver something similar to a CCTV camera coverage and all that. But how is it useful then? Because we just get lured to it that, yeah, CCTV camera can be for our security, for the security of the women, for security of crime and all. But it is more than that. The CCTV cameras are used for traffic management over there, and we are moving from human resources to capital-intensive methods in Naya Raipur. So they do not have much traffic police over there. They almost everything is controlled by the CCTV cameras rather than modern ones. Third one, which I would like to mention, third study is the study of the Masdar city, which is one of the most revolutionary cities in the world they have made. Started in 2014. Coincidentally, the same project of smart city started in India, and India and UAE diplomatically we have been going very far, and we have been going very strong since long, and a lot of infrastructure developments have been there. Talking about Masdar city is the first zero carbon city which they are making. That's why I'm calling it a revolutionary city. So first zero carbon means that there is no carbon emission they'll be making. It's a closed system they're making. That means they are not importing or exporting anything from inside the city. They'll not let the waste go out. All the waste which is produced will be recycled, reused, and again they'll be reducing the waste. And all the resources which are needed to be borrowed from other places, such as water, particularly your oil, everything is produced within the country. So they have everything running on electric, like Tesla cars is an example. Even the smallest to the biggest things are running on electricity. So it's much of a technocentric approach. I'll just repeat myself on a technocentric approach. That is that we are using technology to reduce the effects of the previous technology which we have been having. An example of that is having a linear economic model to a circular economic model. Most of us are researchers over here, so I do not feel the need to mention the linear to circular economic model, although it's very simple that you are not creating the waste, rather you are using the same waste in the infrastructure to make other things. Thank you so much, everyone.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Govt. I'm a research scholar at St. Joseph's University. Today, I would like to talk about policy and practice in child security, a comparative study on India and global initiatives. India has achieved notable progress in various sectors since gaining independence. However, challenges persist. Child security is a critical concern given India's status as home to the world's largest child population. To combat child abuse, which includes physical, sexual, emotional, and neglect, collaborative efforts from government agencies, civil society organizations, and individuals are essential for development. For this study, as per the Ministry of Women and Children Development 2007 report, a child is defined as someone under the age of 18. Child abuse violates the basic rights of those under 18, which involves emotional, physical, economic, and sexual harm, a worldwide concern. The primary causes of child abuse in India includes poverty, parental risk factors, limited education access, cultural norms, and social structures perpetuating abuse. The types of abuse include physical abuse, which is causing physical harm through actions such as hitting, burning, or shaking a child. Sexual abuse, which includes inappropriate sexual behavior with a child, such as using them for pornography or prostitution. Emotional abuse, also known as verbal or psychological abuse, can cause emotional and mental trauma through acts. Neglect, which involves failing to provide basic needs such as food, clothing, medical care, supervision, education, and emotional support. And exploitation, which can be commercial or otherwise, where a child is used for the benefit of others, often to their own detriment. laws, policies, and schemes for the care and protection of children in India include the National Commission of Protection of Child's Rights in 2007, the POSCO Act in 2012, and Juvenile Justice in 2000. The Integrated Child Protection Scheme in 2009, the Child and India Foundation in 2022, the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act in 2006, and the National Policy for Children in 1986. The UN Convention on the Rights of the Child is an international binding treaty established by the UN General Assembly on November 20th, 1989. It is one of the most widely ratified human rights agreements globally, applicable to nearly every country. The CRC outlines the rights and protections of individuals under the age of 18 based on the principles that children possess inherent rights and deserve dignity and respect. The Convention consists of 54 articles addressing various rights, which include survival and development, non-discrimination, participation, and education and healthcare. The European Union prioritizes child protection and has had various policies and initiatives in place to protect children's rights and well-being within its member states. Its effectiveness is seen as many European countries such as Denmark, Sweden, and Norway are ranked high in the RCRI index thanks to the EU's approach in promoting child protection legislative measures, funding programs, and member state cooperation. Elements that enable it include legislative and international cooperation, programs for funding, data collection and research, asylum and child migration, education and awareness. However, on the other hand, we have Africa, whose child security is considered to be the worst in the world, with countries like Chad and Republic of Congo at the bottom of the list provided by Himalayan. Africa's low child security can be linked to a complex interaction of social, economical, and political factors, which include poverty, conflict and instability, inadequate healthcare infrastructure, education difficulties, child labor, and human trafficking. To conclude, child security is a critical global matter that requires immediate attention and coordinated actions from individuals, communities, governments, and international organizations. Every child deserves to grow up in an environment that nourishes their physical, emotional, and psychological well-being, but millions of children throughout the world face a variety of challenges. Addressing child safety concerns necessitates a diverse strategy from governments. To equip children with the resources they need to thrive, it is necessary to invest in education, healthcare, and social services in order to ensure that they get protected from violence, exploitation, and abuse. Furthermore, poverty alleviation programs, strict child protection laws, economic possibilities for families, and assistance to underprivileged populations are critical steps towards enhancing child security. International cooperation is required to solve cross-border challenges such as child trafficking and the impact of global crisis on the security of children. Thank you.
मेरा नाम रूपाली वशिष्ठ है। मैं देहरादून उत्तराखंड से हूँ और मैं इतिहास विषय में पीएचडी कर रही हूँ उत्तराखंड यूनिवर्सिटी से। मेरा आज का शोध पत्र जो शीर्षक है वो है उत्तराखंड विरासत की सुरक्षा, पहचान और वैश्विक नेतृत्व। पिथौरा की धरोहर लंदन फोर्ट इतिहास समेटे हुए है। इस किले को 1791 में गोरखाओं ने अपनी सुरक्षाओं के लिए बनाया था। ये किला पिथौरा गांव की चोटी पर स्थित है। इस किले में गोरखा सैनिक और सामंत ठहरते थे। किले में एक तहखाना भी बनाया गया था और बहुत सारी कीमती बंदूकें, तोपें वहां छुपाई जाती थीं। ये किला बहुत ऊंचाई पर बनाया गया है। राज्य का पर्यटन विभाग एशियन डेवलपमेंट बैंक ऑफ एडीबी की वित्तीय मदद से किले की आज भी 2015 से कार्यरत चल रहा है और वहाँ पर उसका कार्य चल रहा है। किले के अंदर एक कुआं है जिस पर आज पीपल का पेड़ है। वहाँ आज भी उसके अंदर बहुत सारी ऐसी बंदूकें, कीमती तोपें हैं जो उसके अंदर दफन हैं। किले में 15 कमरे और बहुत सारे ऐसे दीवारें हैं जो उसके पीछे कई बंदी गृह पुस्तकालय है। स्कूली संधि के बाद 1815 में अंग्रेजों ने इस किले का नाम लंदन फोर्ट कर दिया था। इसे अपना मुख्यालय बनाया था। इसमें प्रथम युद्ध में प्राण न्यौछावर करने वाले सैनिकों का उल्लेख किया गया है। किले की मोटी दीवारों की चौड़ाई 5 फीट 4 इंच है। इसकी दीवारें मोटे कठुआ पत्थर से बनी हुई हैं। 2013 से संचालित पर्यटन अवसंचालन विकास निवेश कार्यक्रम के तहत किले की विकास की योजना तैयार की थी। राज्य का पर्यटन विभाग एशियन डेवलपमेंट ने इसके लिए काफ़ी
आर्थिक मदद दी है जो कि आज तक चल रही है। इसी प्रकार से नैनीताल के राजभवन को उत्तराखंड की ऐतिहासिक विरासत का दर्जा मिला हुआ है। इंग्लैंड के विकमंग पैलेस की तरह नैनीताल में चर्चित गोथिक शैली में बना हुआ ऐतिहासिक राजभवन की नींव 17 अप्रैल 1897 को रखी गई थी। अंग्रेजी के ई आकार में बनी इस इमारत के निर्माण में सर एंथोनी पैट्रिक मैकडोनाल्ड का खास भूमिका रही है। 2020 एकड़ राजभवन क्षेत्र में 160 एकड़ जंगल है, जबकि 1975 में 75 एकड़ क्षेत्रफल में गोल्फ मैदान बनाया गया। 1994 में राजभवन की सुंदरता को देखते हुए आम लोगों के लिए भी खोला गया। यह भवन 1900 में बनकर तैयार हुआ। मुंबई में बने ऐतिहासिक छत्रपति शिवाजी टर्मिनल की डिज़ाइन करने वाले चर्चित डिज़ाइनर फ्रेडरिक विलियम स्टीवन ने ही नैनीताल राजभवन का डिज़ाइन तैयार किया था। आज़ादी के बाद 1950 में देश का पहला वन महोत्सव नैनीताल राजभवन में ही आयोजित हुआ था। तत्कालीन केंद्रीय कृषि मंत्री एकम मुंशी का लगाया हुआ बांज का पेड़ आज भी महोत्सव की याद ताज़ा कर रहा है। इसी प्रकार से हमारी वैश्विक धरोहर में अल्मोड़ा जिले में स्थित कटारमल सूर्य मंदिर उत्तराखंड की ऐतिहासिक विरासत में स्थित है। इसका निर्माण कत्यूरी राजवंश के तत्कालीन शासक कटारमल में 6ठी एवं 9वीं शताब्दी में कराया था। ये कुमाऊं के सबसे ऊंचे मंदिरों की सूची में भी शामिल है। इस मंदिर का स्थापत्य और शिल्प कला का बेजोड़ उदाहरण है। यह मंदिर कुमाऊं का सबसे ऊंचा मंदिर है। इस मंदिर के आसपास बहुत सारे 45 छोटे बड़े मंदिर मिलाकर के बहुत सारे ऐसे मंदिर हैं जो वहाँ की टूरिज़्म को बढ़ावा देते हैं और वहाँ पर बहुत सारे टूरिस्ट जाया करते हैं। इसी प्रकार दिल्ली स्थित राष्ट्रीय जो इसके अवशेष हैं दिल्ली में स्थित राष्ट्रीय संग्रहालय में रखवा दिए गए हैं। उत्तराखंड के मुख्यमंत्री स्थानीय निवेशकों को लक्षित करने के लिए अहमदाबाद, चंडीगढ़, मुंबई, बेंगलुरु, चेन्नई, हैदराबाद में रोड शो करेंगे। बैठक के दौरान आईटीसी समूह के उत्तराखंड में 5,000 करोड़ रुपए के निवेश का प्रस्ताव रखा गया। उत्तराखंड सरकार ने महिंद्रा हॉलीडेज एंड रिसोर्ट्स इंडिया लिमिटेड के साथ 1,000 करोड़ के निवेश के एक समझौता ज्ञापन पर हस्ताक्षर किए। कंपनी अगले 3 महीनों में राज्य में 45 रिसोर्ट स्थापित करेगी। इससे 2,000 लोगों के लिए रोजगार का अवसर प्रदान होगा और देश में कहीं भी महिंद्रा हॉलीडेज एंड रिसोर्ट इंडिया लिमिटेड द्वारा किया गया सबसे बड़ा निवेश है। उद्घाटन समारोह के दौरान ई कुबेर के साथ 1600 करोड़ का एक और समझौता ज्ञापन पर हस्ताक्षर किए गए हैं, जो कि हमारी वैश्विक धरोहर को बढ़ाने के लिए बहुत ही ज़रूरी है। मुख्यमंत्री पुष्कर सिंह धामी ने पर्दा उठाने वाले कार्यक्रम को संबोधित करते हुए कहा है, उत्तराखंड सरकार राज्य में विश्व स्तरीय बुनियादी ढांचे के साथ साथ व्यापार के अनुकूल माहौल बनाने के लिए काम कर रही है। निवेश को बढ़ावा देने के लिए विशेष नीतियां आकर्षक वित्तीय प्रोत्साहन योजना का हिस्सा है। उन्होंने कहा है, उत्तराखंड में उद्योग के उपयोग के लिए लगभग 6,000 एकड़ का भूमि बैंक उपलब्ध है। कॉर्बेट नेशनल पार्क भारत का पहला राष्ट्रीय पार्क है जो सन 1936 में स्थापित हुआ था। पहले इसका नाम हेली नेशनल पार्क था। 1997 में महान प्रकृतिवादी प्रख्यात संरक्षणवादी स्वर्गीय जिम कॉर्बेट की याद में पार्क को जिम कॉर्बेट नेशनल पार्क का नाम दिया गया। इसी प्रकार से नंदा देवी नेशनल पार्क लगभग 630.33 वर्ग किलोमीटर तक फैला हुआ है। यह उत्तर भारत का सबसे विशालतम अभयारण्य है, जिसे सन 1982 में राष्ट्रीय उद्यान घोषित किया गया। फूलों की घाटी राष्ट्रीय उद्यान सहित सन 1988 में विश्व संगठन यूनेस्को द्वारा विश्व धरोहर के रूप में घोषित किया गया। भारतीय सरकार, हमारे राज्य की सरकार तो इस पर काम कर ही रही है। इसके साथ साथ एज ए ह्यूमन बीइंग और एज ए टूरिस्ट हम सबको भी अपनी राष्ट्रीय धरोहर के बारे में सोचना चाहिए, उसका ध्यान रखना चाहिए। तभी हमारी जो राष्ट्रीय धरोहर है वो विश्व धरोहर के रूप में सबके सामने आएगी और संरक्षित रहेगी। धन्यवाद। थैंक यू।
गुड इवनिंग एवरीवन। मेरा नाम ज्योति है। महाराजा अग्रसेन हिमालयन गढ़वाल यूनिवर्सिटी में मैं इतिहास डिपार्टमेंट में राजस्थान में हरियाणा के किसानों का स्वतंत्रता संग्राम में क्या सहयोग था, इस पर रिसर्च कर रही हूँ। और जो मेरा आज का रिसर्च पेपर है वो इसी से रिलेटेड है कि हरियाणा और राजस्थान जो दिल्ली से लगे हुए थे, इसलिए इन्होंने स्वतंत्रता आंदोलन में बहुत ज़्यादा सहयोग दिया। और आज से लगभग 5,000 वर्ष पूर्व हरियाणा की पवित्र धारा में जहाँ धर्म और धर्म पर विश्व का सबसे बड़ा युद्ध हुआ, हरियाणा ऐसे इतिहास को अपने आंचल में समाये हुए हैं। जो हमारे किसान आंदोलन हुए, एक तरीके से अगर हम कहें कि हमारे स्वतंत्रता आंदोलन की जो नींव रखी थी, या अगर हमारी जड़ें कहा जाए तो वो किसान आंदोलन ही थे, क्योंकि सबसे ज़्यादा शोषित वर्ग किसान ही थे। चाहे उन पर बेगार कर हो, बहुत उन पे 84 तरीके के कर थे। अगर हम कहें आज आपसे कि मुझे चूड़ी खरीदनी है और मैं अपनी मेड से बोलूं कि आप मुझे पैसे दें, तो वो नहीं देगी, आप मतलब हंसेंगे इस बात पे। लेकिन बेगू में, भीलवाड़ा में, बिजौलिया में, राजस्थान में ऐसे कई तरीके के कर थे कि वहाँ के ज़मींदार की बीबी को अगर चूड़ा लेना होता था तो किसानों से चूड़ा कर लिया जाता था। अगर उनके बेटे को घोड़ा लेना होता था तो वहाँ के किसानों से घोड़ा कर लिया जाता था। यहाँ तक कि एक टाइम ऐसा आया कि जब उनकी बेटियों के शादी पे भी कर लगा दिया गया। अगर किसान को अपनी बेटी का विवाह करना है तो उनको 5 रुपये कर के देने होंगे, जो कि मतलब उस टाइम पे बहुत बड़ी राशि थी। 5 रुपये में तो पूरी शादी हो जाती थी, जहाँ उनसे कर मांगा जाता था। बैठ बेगार भी उनसे कराया जाता था, मतलब उनको ज़मींदारों को तभी भी ज़रूरत हो वो उठा के ले जाते थे किसानों को, उनसे काम कराते थे और उन्हें श्रम भी नहीं देते थे। मतलब हर तरीके के कर उनसे लेना है, चूड़ी लेनी है तो, शादी करनी है तो उनसे बिना श्रम दिए ही उनसे सारा काम कराना। और एक था लाल कुंता कर, मतलब आपकी फसल खड़ी नहीं होती थी, उससे पहले तो ज़मींदार और राजा के लोग आकर, सिपाही आकर देख जाते थे कि कितनी फसल खड़ी है, और उस बिहाफ पे वो आपका कर डिसाइड कर देते थे कि इतना % आपको देना है। उसके बाद आंधी आए, तूफान आए या बाढ़ आए या सूखा पड़ जाए, उनको उस चीज़ से कोई मतलब नहीं था। फसल चाहे ठीक रहे या ख़राब हो जाए, अगर आपको उतना % कर देना है तो वो देना है, आप कैसी भी दीजिए। कुल मिलाकर हर तरीके से जो किसान थे उनको दबा दिया गया था। खरगड़ी, कवरजी का घोड़ा, हाथी लगा, हल लाग, पावन पावरा, गर्ज कर, चूड़ा कर, चावरी कर, तलवार बंदी कर। ज़मींदार का बेटा जब पहली बार तलवार उसको दी जाती थी और उसको नाम दिया जाता था, उसमें भी किसानों से कर लिया जाता था, जो कि कोई मतलब राइट नहीं बनता है। अगर हम कहें कि जो वर्ग ऑलरेडी शोषित था और जिस पर हमारे भारत की उस टाइम पर 70 to 80% हमारी जो आर्थिक स्थिति थी वो उसी पर डिपेंड करती थी, कृषि पर ही हम डिपेंड करते थे। हमारी जो डेवलपमेंट थी वो सब कुछ कृषि पर ही थी, और किसान ही हमारी रीढ़ की हड्डी थे, और उसे ही हमारी रीढ़ की हड्डी को बिल्कुल तोड़ दिया गया उस पर कर लाद कर, इतना कि वो खुदकुशी करने पर मजबूर हो गए, या फिर उन्होंने आंदोलन का सहारा लिया। तो बिजौलिया का आंदोलन हुआ इसी के बिहाफ पे। फिर उसके बाद में बेगू का आंदोलन हुआ, जहाँ पर वहाँ के जो थानेदार थे उन्होंने वहाँ पे गोली चला दी वहाँ के ज़मींदार के कहने पर, जिसमें कि 2 हमारे किसान नेता थे जो शहीद हो गए। 500 से 700 किसानों को बंदी बना लिए गए, जिसको गांधी जी ने हमारे जलियांवाला बाग की भी संज्ञा दी है अपनी हरिजन पत्रिका में। उसके अलावा देवीलाल गुर्जर जी हैं और जो कृपा जी थे वो उसमें शहीद हो गए थे। महाराणा फतेह सिंह और अनूप सिंह जी के कहने पर वो गोली चलाई गई थी। लगभग कम से कम 2 सदियों तक हमारा ये किसान आंदोलन चला था, जिसमें वैसे तो इसका पृष्ठभूमि बहुत बड़ी है, लेकिन फिर भी हम जितना कर सकते हैं, हरियाणा, राजस्थान और यहाँ पर सबसे ज़्यादा आंदोलन हुई थे नील की खेती के लिए। जो आंदोलन हुआ था चंपारण, इस किसान आंदोलनों से ही हमें महात्मा गांधी जी मिले, जो उनके नेता बनकर उभर कर हमारे सामने आए। बिजौलिया के आंदोलन में ही सरदार वल्लभ भाई पटेल जी को वहाँ की जो स्त्रियाँ थी, किसानों की पत्नियाँ थीं, उन्होंने ही उनको सरदार की उपाधि दी थी, जिसे बाद में गांधी जी ने वैधिक रूप से घोषित किया था। तो यस मैम, तो उन्हीं की वजह से हमें इतने बड़े बड़े महान नेता मिले। यहाँ तक कि जो भगत सिंह हैं वो भी एक किसान फैमिली से ही बिलोंग करते थे। सरदार सिंह जी उनके पिताजी थे। तो एक तरीके से देखा जाए तो जो हमारे स्वतंत्रता के आंदोलन थे वो सारे किसानों से ही स्टार्ट हुए थे। उन पे जो शोषण हो रहा था उसी के बिहाफ पे ये सारे आंदोलन स्टार्ट हुए थे। लेकिन हम अगर हिस्ट्री में पढ़े तो ज़्यादातर हमें जो आंदोलन मिलेंगे वो मराठा आंदोलन, राजपूत आंदोलन या अदर उसमें मिलेंगे। कहीं पर भी आपको एक पैसिफिक ये नहीं मिलेगा कि इनकी जड़ें कहाँ हैं, रूट्स कहाँ हैं, जो कि किसानों और मजदूर वर्ग जो सबसे ज़्यादा शोषित थे उनसे शुरू हुआ था। तो मैं बेसिकली उसी पर रिसर्च करना चाहती हूँ जो भारत को एक स्वतंत्रता स्वतंत्रता आंदोलन के एक रूप में जिसने जोड़ा वो किसान ही थे। अगर कश्मीर से कन्याकुमारी तक हम पूछें किसी से भी कि आप क्या करते हो, तो वो बोलेंगे मैं एक किसान हूँ, खेती करता हूँ। वो कभी ये नहीं बोलेगा मैं हिंदू किसान हूँ या मैं सिख किसान हूँ कुछ। तो वो एक रूपता में पूरे भारत को जोड़ा था उन्होंने, और उन्होंने ही इस आंदोलन की शुरुआत की थी। जो असहयोग आंदोलन बाद में गांधी जी ने चलाया, उससे पहले वो किसानों ने चलाया था। वो अनाज के बदले अपने ज़रूरत का सामान लेते थे, और उन्होंने अंग्रेजी या मुग़ल जो पैसे थे उनका असहयोग कर दिया था कि नहीं, हम अपनी ज़रूरत का सामान गांव में आपस में अनाज के बदले ले दे के करेंगे। यहाँ तक कि हरियाणा में आज भी हमारे दिवाली और एकादशी पे एक रिवाज है, एज ए संस्कृति हमने उसको अभी भी रखा हुआ है, क्योंकि मैं खुद एक किसान फैमिली से बिलोंग करती हूँ दिल्ली की। तो वहाँ पे एकादशी पे सारे लड़के इकट्ठे होते हैं, वो घर घर गेहूँ मांगते हैं, और उसको इकट्ठा करके वो जाके दुकान पर उस गेहूँ के बदले मूँगफली और रेवड़ी लेते हैं आज भी। तो इस तरीके से हमने आज भी अपनी धरोहर को संभाल के रखा है। बट हमारी गवर्नमेंट ने स्वतंत्रता के बाद इतना डेवलप किया कि जो ज़मींदारी प्रथा थी, जो इन पर कर लगे हुए थे किसानों पर, उसको हटा दिया गया है। और अब हमारे किसानों ने बहुत ज़्यादा डेवलप किया है। हमारी 20% GDP इंडिया की उसी पर डिपेंड करती है। यहाँ तक कि चाहे आप कपड़े पहन रहे हैं, जूट, कॉटन, सब कुछ हमारी कृषि पर ही निर्भर करता है, किसानों पर ही निर्भर करता है। 40% हमारी जो आबादी है वो कृषि पर ही निर्भर करती है। तो हमें इसको आगे और बढ़ाने के लिए भी कोशिश करनी चाहिए। हमें अपने स्कूल कॉलेजेस में कुछ पीरियड्स या सेमिनार ऐसे रखने चाहिए जिसमें हम अपने बच्चों को अपनी रूट से जोड़ें और उनको एग्रीकल्चर से जोड़ें। उनको खेती की कुछ जो बेसिक चीज़ें हैं वो भी हम उन्हें सिखाएं, क्योंकि ये बहुत ज़रूरी है आज के टाइम में। हमारी हर चीज़, चाहे हमारे कॉस्मेटिक देख लीजिए आप, एलोवेरा से ही हमारी जितनी वो हैं बनती हैं, क्रीम्स बनती हैं, बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं। अगर मैं कहूँ, क्योंकि टाइम बहुत कम है तो मुझे फिनिश करना होगा, वरना मेरे पास बहुत कुछ था बोलने के लिए। बट थैंक यू वेरी मच। या
जो अभी किसानों की चीज़ आप मेंशन कर रहे हो, सॉरी मैं आपका बीच में निकल गया था।
यस यस।
एक्चुअली मैं नेशनल ह्यूमन राइट्स कमीशन भारत सरकार के साथ भी काम किया था,
ओके,
किसानों के साथ भी काम किया था, और ट्राइबल्स के साथ भी काम किया था।
यस।
मोस्टली झारखंड के जो ट्राइबल्स हैं, ये लोग भी नॉर्थ ईस्ट उत्तर पूर्व के
यस यस
के जो भी ट्राइबल्स हैं वो भी किसान हैं।
यस।
तो आप कह रहे हो कि जो नॉर्दर्न इंडिया में हरियाणा, यूपी, बिहार, पंजाब जो भी है, दिस एंटायर एरियन स्टेट साइड और नॉर्थ ईस्ट का ये पॉलिसीज डिफरेंट होना चाहिए, बिकॉज देखिए नॉर्थ ईस्ट का तो रेवन्यू अलग है,
यस यस
पॉलिटिक्स डिफरेंट है,
यस यस,
उनका दिखने का तरीका, खाने का तरीका, नॉर्म्स,
यस 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 यस,
साउथ का भी डिफरेंट है, सेंट्रल इंडिया डिफरेंट है।
यस।
तो आपको लगता है कि भारत सरकार को एक डिफरेंट इंस्टीट्यूट या ऑटोनोमस इंस्टीट्यूट बनाना चाहिए, जैसे कि हमारा?
यस यस, देखिए हर एरिया के या हर जगह का अपना एक एनवायरनमेंट होता है, तो वहाँ उसी तरीके की खेती हो। जैसे कहीं पे जूट की होती है, कहीं पे चाय पत्ती की होती है, कहीं पे नॉर्मल अनाज की होती है, अलग अलग तरीके से होती हैं। इसी तरीके से आप जैसे बोलो वहाँ का बिल्कुल, तो जहाँ जैसा है गवर्नमेंट को वहाँ पे वैसा ही करना चाहिए, जितना हो सके वहाँ के लिए उतना ही डेवलपमेंट की पॉलिसीज़ को लेके आना चाहिए हर एरिया के अकॉर्डिंग, मेरे हिसाब से, क्योंकि ये बहुत ज़रूरी है।
I should say, yes, then I can speak from here. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer. I was supposed to make my presentation yesterday, but then because of my other work, I am Sangeeta, and then I work as an associate professor in the Department of Higher and Professional Education, NEPA. So basically, like I have also learned so much about what is happening and research area from my research scholars earlier. This is a piece of my work. This is on ethnic conflict of Manipur 2023, exploring the origins, impediments, and the pathways. So I am from an education background, so I have a different view about this, what is going on in Manipur. I'm more concerned about the education and the development. So little bit, I think many of you, I know you all are aware about what is happening in Manipur from the media and newspaper and so on and so forth. So I just want to, the background itself, I'm trying to discuss with you all. you know or you don't know much about Manipur, but Manipur is popularly known as the Jewel of India and is one of the 7 sisters of the Northeast. Then, how to go about this one? Can you please, somebody, can you please move this slide? Yes. Yes, yeah, from here. No, the connection is not there. So, and it is surrounded by the 7 hills and constitute 0.7% of the total land surface of India. 90% of the total geographical area of the state covered by the hills, and the remaining area is a small valley accounting for only 1/10 of the total area of the state. The state has long international border with Burma, Myanmar, that is to the southeast, and a long border with the adjacent states of Nagaland in the north, Assam on the west, and Myanmar and Mizoram again on the south and the southwest, and Surma Trek and Upper Chinwin of Myanmar on the east. Manipur has a rich culture and also the tradition, and it has its own history more than 2,000 years old. It was a princely state till it merged with India in 1949 and became a full-fledged state of independent India in 1972. Manipur has its own unique feature, and it is the birthplace of polo, the sport. The sports, you know what, it is well famous in the world, but then it is a birthplace. Polo has originated in Manipur. So many of you may not be knowing about that, and it is a birthplace of Ras Leela, the classical dance. It is also famous for having one of the largest freshwater lakes, that is called the Loktak, and also for having the biggest market run by the women folks called Ima Market. So it is also famous for its rich culture and the tradition, dance, and being many representation. The Olympians, we produce Olympians like Mary Kom, you must have learned about it. It has a population of 27.2 lakh population, and which is only 0.22% of the total population of India. It is also the melting pot of culture, as there are about 35 communities living in the state. It is a hilly state with 12 more than 12 districts. I may be wrong in this, I have to correct it. The state has multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-religious society, and this multiplicity has given rise to a variety of classes. So the state has been in a turmoil, we all know, because of the communal classes since 1999 onwards. Recently, violence broke out in the state on May 3rd, 2023, due to the ethnic classes between the two communities, that is the Kuki communities and the Meitei communities. So violence is still lasting for more than 6 months. So now Manipur has become one of the epicenter of ethnic conflicts in the country. Conflicts between these two countries, communities in the state have made the situation a volatile region. In this backdrop, I am trying to examine why the ethnic conflict have emerged in Manipur, and their repercussions on the society and the states, and what should be the way forward. So I tried, basically this paper is based on mainly on the secondary data, and my own perception is being used wherever possible. First, let us try to understand what is the ethnic conflict. In general, ethnic conflict is understood as a conflict relating to either one or all the ethnic parties. While ethnic factors form the basis for the conflict, the ends are often the political, economic, social, or the territorial gains. Ethnic conflict can be also broadly categorized as violent and non-violent. Violent conflict is usually a result of deep ethnic animosity fostered by the political and the social factors, whereas the non-violence is not as disastrous in its effect as violent conflict and is motivated by trivial political gains. So conflict based on the ethnic ground often have catastrophic results such as genocide, mass migrations, economic sufferings, and environmental damage, thus proving to be the significant threat to the state, national, and also the international peace. Various studies found that major ethnic conflicts from the late 20th and the early 21st century are present in Rwanda, some of the countries like Iraq, Israel, and India. So, yes. Yes. So this is the one I was talking about. And what kind of ethnic conflict I'm going to discuss here is that this is mainly what is happening in taking the example of Manipur. So India being a multi-ethnic and highly diverse nation and a sovereign state often witness violent clashes due to this diversity. One example here I would like to discuss is the ongoing ethnic clash in Manipur. This clash is between, as I mentioned, between the two communities, Meiteis and the Kukis. Manipur is multi-ethnic state located at the easternmost part of the India, and it has population of 55,794 according to 2011 census of India, which is covering 22,327 square kilometers. As of 2011 census, out of this, 58.9% represents the valley population and 41.1% represents the population of the hills. The population of the valley accounts for 58.9% of the total, while the population of the hill account for 41.1%. So there are more than 33 recognized tribes in the Manipur. What causes ethnic conflict? So a little bit, understanding from earlier work, we have to try to bring here in the context of Manipur. Ethnic conflict results from a combination of factors that depends upon on ultimate goal. According to Michael Edward Brown's work, ethnic conflict can be both proximate and underlying causes. So his view is that underlying causes of the ethnic conflict can be done to several factors such as structural factors, political factors, economic factors, social factors, and also the cultural and the perceptual factors. While proximate cause embrace 4 levels of conflict triggers, that is the internal mass level factors, bad domestic problems, or external mass level factor, that is the bad neighbors, external elite level factors or the bad neighbors, and another one is internal elite level factors, that is the bad leaders. So keeping into consideration this, let us try to understand more about the underlying causes. Structural factor mainly when there is a weak state, when a state is weak, that may contribute to the structural causes of the ethnic conflict. If a state disregards the priorities of the ethnic groups in its population, then it may lead to the tension and also disarray. And another one is the economic factor, that is a lack of resources, unequal distribution of wealth and opportunities, and also the stagnations are a few economic factors that lead to the competition and intensify the intolerance among the ethnic group. Third one is the cultural and the perceptual factors. Yes. So yes, I will just wrap up. So these may include cultural differences like the language, history, faith, and more. And the last one is the political factor, that the political causes that lead to the ethnic conflict are more likely to happen in the authoritarian states where the ruling parties are biased and discriminatory. What I'm trying to bring here is that taking from this, above whatever I have discussed, Manipur condition is lying. The underlying causes Manipur is, conflict arises in Manipur is due to the underlying causes, that is the structural factor, economic factor, social, cultural, and also the political factor. So the ethnic class has now turned into violence. We all know about that. The root cause has reported by many medias and also the scholars and the papers, newspapers, and then one of the things which I want to quote here is the BBC report. BBC reported that the tension boils over when Kuki began protesting against the demand from the Meiteis to be given official tribal status, while the Kukis argue would strengthen their already strong influence in the government and society, then allowing them to buy land or settle in the predominant Kuki areas. But there are myriad, underlying reasons. The Kuki says a war on the drug waged by the Meitei-led government is screened to uproot their communities, whereas also there are illegal migration from the Myanmar that has heightened the tension. So there is a pressure on land use from the growing population, and employment has also pushed youth towards the various, this kind of situation. So the reason behind this, what I analyze is that one is the status of ST status given to that Meitei community. Another one is the poppy cultivation is also another, one of the factor. Narco-terrorism and then illegal immigrants. These are some of the, causes. Then impediments like literature also reveals that once ethnic conflict broke out, it is difficult to stop. So that is what is happening in the state of Manipur. So ethnic conflicts affects the development of the state. Thousands of children, women and the men have been subjected to violence and attacked by the insurgent groups, provoking intergroup antagonism undermines the conflict management system of the state, eventually contributing to insecurity and instability at the societal level. This in turn may affect the socio-economic and the political system of the country further. So the situation has become a complex issue and it has impacted the society at large. Like you see the displaced homes, disturbed the education system, and impacted mental health of the people, uncertainty about the future, losing innocent life, holding back development aspects of the states. So these are some of the things. You will also see open firing, killing the innocents, homeless people. As of now, the violence has resulted over 150 people dead, the burning of at least 1,700 buildings, more than 50,000 people are currently displaced, with many more living one of those over 500 relief camps in the states. So the way forward this is a reflection, and then on the discussion of what I had given here. Conflict being a part of human nature, it is neither permanently erased nor will peace last forever. Conflict can only be mitigated to maintain peace, and then the ethnic conflict situation in Manipur is becoming complex in nature. It is felt that center intervention is high time. It is now at the center intervention is a must, what I feel, for restoring the peace and also bringing solution and also framing the inclusive and also comprehensive policy for all strata of society. We need to also stop all this violence and the restore peace through dialogue and the discussion between the representatives of both the groups. Need to stop spreading of lies and the hate speeches. That is what going on in the social media. Having separate administration is not the solution. More than 30 ethnic group lives in the state, and one needs to understand the geographical nature of the Manipur. We are living in the 21st century, and now because of these violence, the development of the state has gone back to another 10-15 years. So this have a serious implication on the future generation, as it is affecting physically, psychologically and educationally among the child and the youth. Civil society has to play an important role for restoring the peace by understanding the intensity of the conflict. So this is just my thought, and I am still working on it. Thank you so much for your patient listening. Yes. And you have to know the history of each and every groups. Manipuri Maitais, they are the original inhabitant. If you read the paper and the Nagas, cookies came later on during the British period. So you have to see the history. Yes, you have to see the history. Yes, you have to see the history. Yes.
There was an interview with Karan Thapar.
Karan Thapar talks about all these things. I'm an education. Yes, you are a researcher and you should know the history. The book is a live book. So you should know the book. What book from origination is from where? I'm not talking about, why should all people of this state I'm talking about. I'm not for the Meitei, I'm not for the Kuki, I'm not for the Naga. Why should we suffer for the last 6 months? And other state is developing now and we are still very behind. And you see, like, I went home
exactly.
And I see the government.
This is my question that forget about the government, forget about the chief minister or the center, right?
And forget about
yes. I'm asking you as a Manipuri, right?
Yes.
And forget even about your indigenous
identity,
right? I'm asking just as a Manipuri, when you people are going through all that, right? We are just watching some news, we get to know there are many things we don't get to know, right? But right, like I'm talking to and you have been researching on this topic. I just wanted to know that what you have felt at the very ground level. Forget about your government identity.
That is what I'm feeling.
This is what I'm saying.
That is what I'm feeling. See, what I'm feeling is that all of us, we need to talk. We need to have a dialogue among ourselves, all the communities. I mean, we should not have that hate kind of thing anymore. Hate speech is the one thing, and we are, every community, we are looking another community in a different way. It should not be like that. We have been living there. It's a beautiful state. You all should go and see all we are very famous in terms of sports also. We have everything. And we are really hardworking people, but because of this is lagging behind.
I
Yes,
agree with you. I've been to Manipur. I've worked for 3 years in Manipur. It's indeed a beautiful city. It's indeed people are hardworking there. But there are ifs and buts. Let's not put it in the common platform. Let's have one-to-one discussion.
Yeah. So
on that.
only my thing. Yes.
Let's stop here. With
Yes,
the
I understand.
conversation.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for excellent presentation.
Thank you so much.
Excellent presentation.
Like, I think everyone needs to think about this.
It's
as a
something
human
that-
being, not as
it is something that every individual, as a citizen of India, you have a right to talk about it, as we need to discuss on the table. And yes, we need to bring upon all the communities coming together and need to work out on that. So that's required. So let's.
I think you want to say something.
No, we can discuss this bilaterally.
Yeah,
Because I'm
yes,
also from the Zoho
this can be
community.
done bilaterally.
Yes,
I don't always agree with what you're saying over here.
Yes.
Right? You see, you're a meeting.
You won't agree, but this is what is happening. I may not also agree with you, but this
So
will
that's
not
what- that's
solve
what
the
I'm
issue.
saying.
We should think about how to bring the peace.
Yes.
So that is the thing. We should bring the
net
peace.
result
Yes.
should be the peace.
Peace.
The net result should be the
How-
development.
Yeah.
Peace can take place only when both the communities live separately.
Yes. Why should we live separately?
That is
You are from where? You are from where?
Let's not again talk about
This is wrong. Separate state is wrong.
Article 3 of the Constitution.
Yes.
There is always a modification.
You are working
of the
for that.
state.
Yes, I
Now
understand.
listen, you've spoken now, hear me out. Under Article 3 of the Constitution of India, there's a specific arrangement and clause for any community to, because what is a state? According to Ilaka's data, state is a construction and deconstruction.
So you want a separate state. I understand what you are arguing for. You don't talk for breaking the boundary of Manipur. I am not talking for breaking the boundary of Manipur. I want to bring peace in the state, and also boundary should not be broken. This is the only thing.
Yes, okay, let's have a stop over here. Let's have a stop over here.
Mizoram is another state. Please don't try to bring.
Our common Mizos.
Yes, then Manipur, where is the Manipur? Who are staying? It's not only for the job. We will talk now, please. Let us talk.
Let's stop here.
Yes.
Please do give respect to the chair over here.
Yes,
Please stop
that
here
is
and
true.
let's
Thank
not
you
get
so
into
much.
an argument. So let's have a good relation over here. So let's continue with that. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Let's stop.
Thank you once again, and I would like to talk to you. We can talk now. We can talk right then. Yes. So we will talk, and what can we bring? Because we need to bring lot of suggestions to the government. Not only government. I think civil society should understand, and
The civil society should play a major
role, and we should not wait for the government. And what are the ifs and buts we need to work out? I think we at the end
worked here in Senapati district. I worked for 3 years.
And life is so short. Anything can happen tomorrow. So why should we leave? That is the thing. I really like to talk to you. I'm talking to you now. Thank you.